they're so sweet, Reese. they do rack up, right? And you can find yourself in the top 10 like these teams here. Great stuff all around from these boys. Obviously going to be able to now compete in that semi-finals.
Yeah, and if we move over to our OCE region, we're probably going to see something that I'm sure many of us have seen before. Jinx, Alec, and Worthy at the top. No one should be surprised here. Last week, I feel like they had some internet issues. I kind of saw that they weren't performing well, not because their gameplay wasn't top tier, but just because some external factors. And this week, they've come back and surprised absolutely no one. This is probably the best team on the region, and seeing them in that first place slot is absolutely no surprise.
Yeah, these guys are in scintillating form right now, and seeing them in first place is no surprise by any means. Regardless of whatever game mode it is, it feels like these guys just managed to win anything they seemingly play. Taking a look though from 6th to 10th, right? Seeing in 10th, right? Radius, Slayer as well, right? They've actually been able to sneak their way in. Slayer, obviously one of those players who, he goes way back from even before the World Cup days, right? So seeing him being able to squeeze his name into that top 10, make his way to the semi-finals, it's going to be exciting to see like those guys compete.
That's right. Now, for you guys who are tuning in and this is your first time ever watching a Fortnite event, hi, it's awesome to have you here. What we kind of noticed throughout the competition in Fortnite is across seasons, we have like a meta develop over the course of a season, right? But when we have these competitions, there's a meta within the meta. Okay, so Reese and Levin, last week we watched EU go a little bit crazy with the eliminations. Everyone was extremely aggressive. Everyone was kind of rotating and trying to find these fights. Do you guys think we're going to be seeing that again? Especially now that we're in kind of qualifier 2, we only have 2 weeks really to make it into the top 10 and go through the semis. Will we see that repeated this week?
Yes and no. I think so. Some of these teams who are confident on their series points, they're probably going to be taking more fights, doing more eliminations. Last week, we saw Tayson's team making a very aggressive push halfway across the map to try and find some of these fights. So this week, I think some of these teams are going to do something similar. But on the flip side of that, we have teams who are switched up from last week, which means they have 0 series points. So getting that top 10 this week is going to be super important. Like Benji, Matzo, and Amplify, for example. These teams are going to need to get a good placement this week in order to actually qualify through for the semifinals. So they're probably going to be playing a little bit more of a normal play style where they're taking eliminations as they need them and not being as aggressive.
Yeah, I think Reese put that perfectly right. For some of these teams, it is going to be make or break. The likes of, Benji, Matzo, and Amplify, they've reformed trios. That means series points reset, right? So it's going to be up for them to have a big week in order to make sure that they can make it through to that semi-finals. It'd be a, really shame to see the name, like a name like Benji miss out on the heats, right? So I think in terms of actual meta stuff, I think we will see, a lot of aggression still. But be careful who it's from, right? If it's a team that needs to be like in top 10, it's make or break. You have to qualify this week, and they're being uber aggressive. I'm gonna be, looking a bit warily, like, what are you guys doing? You want to play for late game. You want to make sure you can guarantee those high placement points. But if it's out of some of these teams who are probably a bit more comfortable, they know, hey, realistically on series points, we have a bit of leeway. They're going to be trying to test the waters, right? Because ultimately, this is the top level competition, especially based off of this week's games that we've seen in these rounds. So definitely a high level competition, and will be some interesting strategies from all different teams.
I love that. Now, what we're kind of seeing as well is these trios that place in top 10, they're kind of removed from the player pool and they're kind of given a ticket to semifinals. And that is the next time we'll see some of these trios. So what I really like coming into qualifier 2 is that we'll be seeing kind of new trios step into the limelight. Trios that we may not have seen, or trios that might remind us like, hey, did you forget about us? We are in this competition as well. Is there trios that you guys have your eyes on, especially like when we look at the numbers, there's 10 trios that participated last week that are here to participate this week. So who do you guys have your eyes on?
Yeah, and last week in 11th place was the Play Well trio, right? They were just out of qualification by that 1 point, and I'm going to make the cheesy joke, but last week they played well, and this week they got to play really, really well, maybe even good or excellent if they want to get into that top 10 slot. And I feel like, this trio has been so consistent through a lot of the other tournaments, who's done other rounds as well, but not really managed to make it into the top 10. They're always near that 10th slot. So hopefully today, I'm keeping an eye on them to see if they kind of move on up or not.
Yeah, head of Play Well marketing is going to be in your DMs, Reese, after that one. That was brilliant.
They're open.
I think in terms of the teams who were able to make it last week, I'm going to try to do the same this week. I think if you look at Steelix, Snagged, and Heatsy, I think they've shown time and time again that, they can do well, right, when they are landing at Stealthy, right? Obviously in December, DreamHack, they struggled at Stealthy, came back in January, patched up some of the mistakes, being contested by basically the same people, right? Shakos has been sort of a thorn in their side, and I call him a thorn. Ultimately, Steelix's trio are sort of winning that battle there, and still Shakos, they still remain to go stealthy, try and beat them out, and so hopefully these guys can sort of maybe patch some of the things that went wrong for them last week. I think off spawn wasn't necessarily their issue. I think they struggled a bit in mid game, and so hopefully they can sort of work out these sort of issues and really secure themselves, because they are a top trio ultimately.
Yeah, I think that's like a big factor in kind of separating the very top from like the mid-tier players, right? Is being able to transition any lead that you have, any little like the smallest thing could literally lead to a victory royale for you and your trio. So we have to keep an eye on a lot of these teams heading in, especially once again, this is qualifier 2. We only have one more week to try and make it in. Now, guys, let's talk predictions. A lot of these trios are going to be facing off. Who do you guys have your eyes on? Levin, let's start with you.
Well, I love him, and so I just wanted to show him some love. Benji Fishy, he's now playing with Matzo and Amplify. Matzo and Amplify, incredibly talented. If you're not familiar with them, I can assure you, you will be very, very soon. These guys are bound to have a great day, right? They're landing over towards Hydra 16. They're gonna have that rocket launcher on a regular basis. I think their form has been just scintillating over the course of the weekend. Newer trio, haven't had much time to necessarily practice or work on things with each other, but still, sort of just been incredibly impressive to watch by all means. And so I'm really confident about these guys going into these next 6 games. Yeah,
and I'm going with Seti, Cammy, and Teak. These guys are pretty much what all people have been talking about throughout kind of the preseason before last week started. And then, a big shocker, after playing so good in round 1 and 2, they didn't manage to make it into round 4. But, this week they fixed their issues, they're here, and we know in these guys in a kind of custom set lobby style, they perform, and they perform so well. Their drop spot on the east side of the map is named after Cammy. So come on, gotta be my pick.
Yeah, taking a look here at Shio's pick, right? Flick, Anas, and Thomas. I think if you came into the FNCS before, like in that preseason period that you're talking about, Reese, I think arguably the strongest trio was probably Flick, Anas, and Thomas, right? Because they're one of the only top trios who actually remain together. Obviously, last FNCS, they came, second place. These guys are the reigning kings of Dirty Docks, right? Obviously, I know there will be some British boys who maybe disagree with that, but these guys are a great pick. I think finally seeing them in this round 4 stage, they're bound to do well. And so great pick from Shia.
Great pick. Yeah, and Sancho's gone with Kezix, Forza, and Nate. A solid pick. We saw them be really, really dominant in the qualifiers last season. Last week, they ended up coming 34th, and they only lost out on that qualification to round 4 because they lost a Bloom battle at the end, and the player that ended up winning the Bloom battle actually moved up into 33rd. So it almost couldn't have been any closer. It went down to a few shots, so they ended up missing out in round 4. And this is their first week in that round 4 slot, and I guarantee they're going to perform really, really well because they're such an all-rounded trio.
Man, I just look across the board and there's so many trios that I want to see in the finals, but that's the point of competition, right? There's only 33 spots. There can only be 33 teams that make it to semifinals and grand finals. So there's going to be so many things that we will be breaking down over the course of the next 6 games. So if you like what you're seeing, stick around, tune in, tweet at these two, ask them questions. They are some of the biggest minds in all of Fortnite. Now, guys, we're getting ready to jump aboard the battle bus, so buckle up. We got to introduce you to our casters. It's Sancho West and Shia Wager. They will be our guides through all things Europe. So, casters, say hello.
It is time for the second qualifier. Round number 4 was going to be live very shortly. And it's the same old casters you're used to, Shia Wager and Sancho West, but a lot of new trio Sancho who are up for grabs today for that top 10 spot.
I got to piggyback off. I mean, we were talking about it. Levin was talking about he was a pig, right? He was all piglet out, having some good times. I got to piggyback off what he said. Benji, Amplify, and Matzo are going to be a trio that I definitely have my eyes on, considering that they have to try to get in here in this qualifiers. There's only 6 matches to go, and it starts right now. I mean, you're going to have to get in, the conditioning, all that stuff, child. It's very much exciting.
Yeah, scrappy fights all around the map. Misty Meadows contested by 2 strong teams. Same thing with Slurpee. We saw Dirty Docks. The gods of Dirty are there, Anas, Flick, and Thomas, but they're also up against a team contested for now. Lots of things around the map, and you're mentioning Benji, Matzo, and Amplify. We also have ADN, Hardfight, and Astro on the other side of things. So
that's gonna be
ADN might have got the boot for now, but we'll see how the comeback works in round 4. Sancho, you never know what ends up happening in that game number 1.
I mean, that's what I like about it, man. There's so many storylines here, and for y'all to look out for. And this most important is this idea between contested drops and uncontested drops. That as well is going to be so interesting to look at. I mean, the numbers show that if you are contested, the chances of you for getting into the top 10 are significantly lower. But hey, it all comes down to just actually playing the game. And we saw a great team actually get in the last match from the Deals trio. They got in with a very good, strong performance, and the same team like the Playwell trios getting out with that that great performance. But here's we all, Cammy, Seti, and Teak. They had a phenomenal performance last week in the qualifiers, winning multiple victory royales back to back. And here we are with the Cammy split. Can they change their fortunes and make it in? Let's get it started, baby.
Yeah, Cammy straight up at the Cammy split. Teak is not going to be on stream, neither is Seti, because it's so widespread and far behind. But we were talking about these scrappy fights. One of them is over at Slurpy Swamp. I think I see 2 different total trios. It also kind of all looks uncontested with that AI just there in the center. So Deuce, Putrick, and Snappy might have this. I'm wondering exactly where Kiriachi ended up going or what's going down in this POI, because right now there's only one trio here to claim it all.
And that was so interesting, right? We were getting ready for it, and we're like, oh, there's going to be a big time battle. And we all seen in previous FNCS trios that anytime there is a battle here in the Slurp Factory area, it just causes so much, it just ruins the whole ride. You know, all of a sudden they're fighting, they're running into zone. Here's the answer right here. Here's Kiriachi here. They're actually up a little bit, and this is where a lot of the engagements happen from all these trios rotating down from this part of the map. And this engagement here that we have to keep an eye on is Kiriachi, Jamside Fury, and looks like they have someone else here in Weeping Woods.
Yeah, they're going to be going up against what looks like Hydro, Harry, and Tempify. Now, we are surprised that these guys weren't at Slurpy. Looks like Harry might be surprised on the fact that they're rolling up to Weeping fast after just getting a few, I would say, attacks or maybe 1 or 2 weapons. This is still very early overall in the game. You can now also see the effects on the other side of the map when people who are actually not, you know, chasing down side by side, house to house, box to box, in an off-spawn drop contestation. Teak now has that little lake house available to him as well, while Cammy farms up the antenna and everything beside it itself as well.
And I know, you know, Levin and Reese were talking about the aggressive, Zeke was talking about how so many elims happen early here in the EU region, but we're just seeing that this qualifier too. It's a little bit more serious. I mean, the stats don't lie. In Qualifier 1, the top 10 teams in the EU region were more passive during these early zones. As we finally get the first tick here on the board, here comes from passive to aggressive in the action here. It is Shaiko and Meta and Expert, who are a surprise team that very consistent in FNCS, but now they're on the back foot and they're almost, yes, they're eliminated. They're out, lobbied by Milo and Cisse and company, and Nebs, they get the try, and the vibes continue on in the battle north of Coliseum. And that's going to be our first trio eliminated here in game 1.
Yeah, Cisse rolling in from round number 3 over at 20th place. So kind of the bottom half of the pack of trios coming into play today. And once again, a classic fight we're seeing in the desert side near Colossal Coliseum. It's also a colossal mistake, I feel like, to rotate near here or try to farm up expecting nothing to happen, because that's where most fights break down. Surprisingly, as well as Stealthy Stronghold, there's always a fight every week. And now another one breaks down with Shakos up against MX, or with MXR up against Heat Sneed. Snag, Granjo's already down. And Sasha, this fight's getting explosive.
This is a battle between France and Italy right here. The Italians from Steelix going up against Gray and company and the Frenchmen. Can they be able to hold on? This has been another contested spot that we've been talking about. Steelix have been doing really well holding on to this, but this kind of battle, these are the battles that you have to be careful on. Yes, you may win this battle, but your rotation's going to be very, very scuffed. At the same time, you're going to have to go through an ADN trio that's sitting at Pleasant. But meanwhile, let's keep it focused right here in this fight. Now it's Seiko sitting at height of the moment here, down a member of Gray. Now it's up to EXR and Seiko to hold down tight as the battle is fighting out. Looking up at the feed right now, passive goes down and the feed gets confirmed by Stormlight. So that battle is continue on, and another trio loses out. It looks like the Italians get the advantage here. Heatsy, Steelix, and I think that's Snag, right? Yeah, they're doing really well.
What a good pressure relief from them. Just last week, 32nd place overall, getting invaded post spawn.
Very surprised. Very surprised that they fell that low. Yeah.
And this time now it's just looking good. Game number 1, they actually have a completely fresh start that we haven't seen so far in the FNCS. So we'll see what they do with that first game. Arabaffo going down to Stormy right all the way up near Steamy Stacks as well. That was a huge fight I wanted to pay attention to as well. Link also going down, one of the most momentous trios. But on screen right now, it's the Playwell trio. breaking down another one over at Retail Row. Everyone looking healthy as well. Trader, Arax, and Wishy can't do much. There's always these underdog contesters who find themselves at a POY against Titans, against the 11th place trio of Playwell. And on all fronts, they just tear apart the fight. There's a reason these guys were the next up trio to qualify, didn't make it through just yet, but statistically are the strongest ones coming into today.
Yeah, and they had that great trio that with iDrop going into previous FNCS trios. They played really well at that Lazy Lake area. Now moving down to Retail Row this FNCS, and now we're going to move into that Pleasant Park trio of ADN Hardfight. Now, we already talked about ADN getting booted from the trio from Benji. You know, Matzo and Amplify, that's been a historic one. If you got to compare it down, that has been the trio for the EU region for the longest time. But now, Astro and Hardfire, a great duo, adding ADN, and now they get a nice surprise tags here, nice little ambush on Cisse, who we remember just had that battle a little bit north of the Coliseum, so they were able to make this rotation right at this moment here.
Yeah, and you can see kind of the signature moves from Hardfire and Astro combined with the complementary actions of ADN. With Matzo and Amplify, it's always playing off the teammates' pressure that's being created when ADN was kind of in the fray on that trio. Now with Astro and Hardfire, these guys are one of the most passive duos that end up playing things out. They love playing low ground as well overall, just when those end games start to hit down too. So with the combined, you know, move with having ADN now as a part of the trio as well, they get a very good arsenal overall of plays they can make, you know, in this game.
I agree with you. I mean, no doubt. I mean, ADN, Amplify, Matzo kind of play that low ground mid layer style so well. So that's definitely going to complement Astro and Hardfind. So that's going to be so interesting to see going forward, Chayo.
Yeah, and right now they're just looking for surge tags overall. Close to the bridge, one place everyone likes to get metal, but also one of the most dangerous places to farm in general, because if someone else is there next to the hills, like ADN and Astro are, if they have their surge plan online, you're taking damage. And now,
oh no,
we got Slurpee clashing over with Salty Towers, meeting in the middle of Weeping Woods, and it seems like someone's going to start crying very soon. Tayson, iDrop, and Savage. Tayson already down from Shield. Looks like on the top side, Snappy has the advantageous position.
And this is the trio that's been so aggressive throughout the qualifying stage. It did not make it, of course. That's why they're playing here in Qualifier 2. But we've seen them all the way up north at Stealthy. Now they're all the way down south here. And we thought Kiridachi's trio was going to be chill, not going against the Slurpee trio. But boy, oh boy, this is such a messy fight that's happening right now. And already Tayson, iDrop, and Savage getting 2 elims. Looking forward to add a couple more elims. The pressure is on. It is a trio box dive heading in. Head strong. And Bootrick is just trying to hold the line as much as possible, but he does have it. Zappy are now fighting hip to hip, and now it's going to be a little bit as Putra is now going up the high for a moment to gain the advantage. Now he's sending down the beams here. It could be a matter of moments. Yes, Tayson does go down. It's a 3-2 advantage. A lot of HP going through the Project trio of going against iDrop and Savage. Now we've been seeing iDrop and Savage sticking their hand inside the cookie jar for so many times, and now they're getting punished by Zappy and Putrick. Let's see how now as the time is going back. So many nice work between Tayson and Savage. 2 elims, 4 points, and now Mr. Savage has to disengage, and this is going to hurt Savage and iDrop, but I'm not sure if they're looking for a placement here in this fight. I think they're just testing the waters, and boy, the water got cold there really, really fast.
Really fast. I think that weak link in the fight in general was Tayson tuning in. Already had Crack Shield, got it all the way back up to 200. Cracked again. And it wasn't even that high of a fight that built up straight away. I think that was just the clash. The first bullfight to start off, Snappy all the way up with the wooden builds. And I think Savage had those metal ones until Snappy ended up winning. And then past that, the fact that Tayson took so much damage over and over really made that water cold for Savage's trio. They have to disengage. Hopefully got that card. Didn't get to see through all that chaos. Could have that reboot right there in short time. But I think the main reason they wanted to disengage as well is just look at all the new faces that are showing up from the left side. Yeah, everyone looks like, you know, Greasy Grove or not Greasy Grove, Holly Hedges in total. It's just like, you know, you don't want to take fights in Weeping or anywhere where the sand is under your feet. You'll have people rotating fast, and that's where those tags start to come in.
And at the same time, this is a very hot spot rotation zone. In the last FNCS trios, so many engagements happen in this little triangle, and actually that pink triangle team is actually my pick. Did do really well today. It's Kezix, 4ZR, and Nate. There's only 2 of those pink triangles, so who knows what happened to Kezix in that fight, but look at it over now. They retreat back into their home, their hovel of Salty Towers, and no Tayson in sight, no reboot card in sight. They had to abandon it in total. But Mr. Savage and iDrop and Tayson have been definitely another crowd favorite, like a Benji Fishy, like a Mongrel Mutual, that you want to see them succeed. But I think right now this kind of dangerous kind of play style is, I don't know how it's going to work out to them. Now they have Dietrich's, and where's Dietrich's trio? Where's the rest of that company? We'll go more to that story, because we got more action from the Playwell trios now fighting close together here on this mid layer in this engagement as they're getting pressure from the top side. So we got a little mini layered fight that's happening as Eclipse is trying to get in as much as possible. And looks like the Playwell boys are expanding all their metal hard mats here. They do not want to lose this engagement, considering that they're trying to better their performance from the qualifiers, but it looks like Eclipse and Tridents, they have a 2 front pressure on the backside. You have Lucy sitting on the other side trying to create a Prince, and then at the same time you have the rest of the lobby looking in for some beams to third party. Crizzy just gets hit right in the mouth here. He's gonna have to back up to his teammate, looking for that backup as much as possible without any shield. Crizzy may go down early, and once that happens, Shio, that's gonna give them the green light to completely box dive from Eclipse and company.
Yeah, we just saw it in Weeping Woods. One person taking repeated damage in the trio should be enough for the people up top on the higher layer to have the advantage to break down in the fight. We thought it'd be Crizzy, but it's Stir6 that takes the God shot straight to the face, down to just 20 HP. We'll flip off that fight for a second. The reboot's there.
They did get the reboot card.
Yep,
okay.
Tayson's coming right back. That trio's gonna be fully alive, but they're gonna have to re-farm a lot. They're gonna have to make sure that all the mats are there in total. Lots of buildings available in Salty Towers. Past that, Amplify and Benji are also kind of, you know, renting some space inside the home of Savage, Tayson, and Drop, or iDrop, and then past that on that fight with Playwell, that 2-1 split. I wonder if it's still working out. The pressure's still dropping down. Because that game 1 momentum, Sancho, that's huge to have in these fights.
And you were talking about paying rent. They're gonna have to pay in that HP, and look at this investment here. The Playwell was able to actually hit the reverse card. Now it's Trident all by themselves. It looks like Eclipse went down and the other teammate. So Trident now is on the full scramble, trying to get away, trying to push it high, expend all the kind of materials needed to just trying to hold on and survive. But Stir6 now, the storm is gonna take the toll and pay it. Down goes Stir6, and Crizzy now, without that HP lead, is gonna have to wrap up the fight. But it's not gonna take a lot, but at the same time, look how far these Playwell boys have to go. Even though they win this engagement, these are the butterfly effects that it causes, and you're already seeing out in the distance the other members actually sitting there. So this fight's going to be a very elongated here. You're going to win this moment, but you mentioned, Shio, a little bit earlier, the sand could be there for letting them get away. Crizzy right now on the back foot now with 10 HP, 9 HP, man. Still going to go pushing, knowing that he has to understand he got to get the snipe as much as possible. Down goes Trident. There's still 1 member of that trio there, but what is the cost, Shio? So much invested into the storm fight, and Playwell now has to get to 2 reses. That's not going to be easy.
I mean, we practice it in pubs sometimes, chain resing to make sure none of the squad goes down all the way to the zone. So might have to be the only option here. At the same time, does Vettel even survive this overall? There are bandages. He has 13 for him, so he's fine. He can pick up the cards as well and then go for the reboot. Probably more efficient option. But look at who's surrounding that van. Once again, Tayson, Savage, and iDrop have already used it. Dookie Marvin and Vanille are here as well. It makes me wonder what ended up happening at Dirty Docks, because either it got split or Flick lost. Past that, though, every win NA and EU so far came from an uncontested team. So we've been seeing some beef across the map and some pseudo contention, right? But so far there are some trios we're looking at that should be up for contention.
At the same time, Shio, Dietrich's, where's Fesroki and Kylie? They're gone. Dietrich is by himself. So as soon as he gets found out that he's a solo, that's going to be another 2 points easily. Again, this is the FNCS Trios. This is Chapter 2, Season 5. We're in the Week 2 qualifiers. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Match 1. We got a whole row of action, 6 matches total. And not only that, the broadcast will keep kicking it with the NA East and NA West coming soon right after. But let's go ahead and jump back across the pond, because right now it's barely early in the morning here on the West Coast. Shout out to everybody watching from around the world, wherever you are. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, this is Reese's pick of Seti, Teak, and Cammy, unable to pick up any points. So that lets me know that they're looking for as many Storm Surge tags as possible, which we'll see if that's available at this moment here, Shia.
No, their job's very spread out on the right side of the map. They kind of have a tab on every single trio that's already rotated it in. Have a huge kind of control over the right side of just information. knowing where everyone's base stopped. Right now, though, being kind of greedy with their base overall, making it small, all out of wood as well. Very prone box dives or any type of pressure, so now have to break out a little bit. Minimal damage overall, though. They have a car as well to take and a huge other secondary base to hide behind as well. Vortex is not stopping, though. Okay, now he's stopping. Thank you very much. Please play like everyone else on the server right now. Get boxed up, stay in your little homes, and go for tags. It's simple. Follow the procedure.
Hey, remember, you know, sometimes just getting in, and that SETI is trying to get in as much as possible. And hey, we get a first look at the new outfit that's entered the store, the World Warrior Chun-Li, now getting really a kick to the face for that moment. Now it's going to have to set down and wait for that HP bar to replenish. And let's see what's going down here. Now they're not stopping now, Shiloh. Vortex is here with his trio.
Yeah, and there's no space for T to kind of run away too, because Hardfind is right there on a base on the river. So this fight, this wall-to-wall shotgun shot, I don't even know what to call it, little skirmish has to go through. Here's the first edit going closer to Vortex. They're still staying. It's about 1.5 boxes away. Vortex right on the wall, but not going to find any connections with any shots just yet. SETI kind of expands the base, realizes after looking through these edits how many teams are actually going to be ending up looking at these guys. They have to move in the zone. Every team around them, there's also base top right beside, looking for any opportunity, any hint of damage they can take. So if these builds start to break down, if there is a big box fight that breaks through and you hear shots rattling, that is not good for either team, Jamie or Nightsec at all. So they're going to play a little bit further behind. Vortex actually fully disengaging as well. On the other side of the map, we have Sniper, or Bad Sniper, Laxus, and Tripper. Complete control of the bridge. And they're making every single team below them pay tolls.
And absolutely, you're knowing that Bad Sniper would like to have in that trio a better performance that they had last week, where they were just getting destroyed out there in the Salty Towers by iDrop. In that trio, we know how dangerous Savage, Tasten, and iDrop can be on their drops. So now, no doubt, once Bad Sniper actually left that drop, they're doing better. But the story continues here for the Italians. Heatsy, Steelix, and Snag got a great engagement out there in Stealthy Stronghold, so no doubt they're going to be pretty decent with Storm Surge, but at the same time, they still have to keep looking for it. We'll get more into the Storm Surge explanation, but right now we're in that 4th zone, and actually, let's go and talk about it right now, Shio. Storm Surge is here.
Yeah, it's here right now. It's a big deal for a lot of teams, but I think the cooler thing to note right before it is that Steelix, Snag, and Heatsy are almost about to beat their record last week of how many points they got in round 4. It was 14 points in total over the 6 games these guys accrued. Now they're up at 6, have the first chance to really have a game under their feet. Coming out of Stealthy, even contested, a very nice defensive showcase there. But look at all the teams they're up against, Sancho. AD and Astro Hardfind waiting right below them. Nightsec is right there too. You've seen how good they've been, but a snipe goes straight through. Onto Orgurchik. Unfortunate for these guys, but they have a big base and a lot of distance to be able to get that revive.
Yeah, look at all the madness and all the shots, and this is what happens when Storm Surge, everyone now starts editing, taking shots, opening up their little windows, trying to get their cone shots, and sometimes you pay the price, you get a little greedy, and ADN was able to connect, and this is a trio that's now under that pressure of the Storm Surge, only one above.
And Storm Surge is basically about dealing more damage than most other teams available at the moment. There's a little bit of a threshold. Is gonna click in after this zone. It's 50 players. They're going to need to be alive at maximum. So with 62, 12 need to go down. Need to have more damage dealt than those extra people that are alive right now. 46 above that threshold. Is that trio? That includes Robaz, but the Surge is ticking already. I think Falconly is the one taking damage, or is it Vanille? We'll have to see in just a second. 46 above, so it is Vanille right above them. And they could pressure this and go for some free elims.
And that's what's going to be scary when the Storm Surge starts coming in. As you hear the sound effect and you get a visual cue as well. And you're going to have to dip inside your heels as much as possible. 268 below. That is a lot. And you're going to have to open up your edits. You're going to have to be greedy with your picks. And hey, Naji's just able to get a couple more to breathe up, but it's still not enough. Marvin has to pick it up as well, because Storm Surge is going to keep on ticking. 6 players have to go down. And it looks like Naji and Marvin may be part of that. Now 4 people have to go down. So it's very close, it's very scary, and this is not where you want to be. I've been hit by Storm Surge before in a competition, and man, oh man, it just causes you to move and be aggressive, and that's what you're seeing from the rest of the lobby as we're getting a nice overview as we're getting closer and closer to the fully rotating zones. But let's keep on the story right now as the half in and half out is revealed, and this team is in it, Shio, but at the same time, they're safe. They survived the Storm Surge.
I don't think they're safe. They've definitely survived though, but they need to land like at least 10 to 12 more shots. They are alive, yeah. But like, think about it, right? Landing 10 shots in this instance with an AR is so difficult. At max off an edit, Vanille's probably going to be able to get maybe 2 shots into Floki coming right below him, or maybe you're seeing far away. I think they might even need to just drop down, go for a big shotgun shot. They have the harpoon as a possibility for that play. The reason they got to live this last little surge section was because they had some shields. Now, without that option to heal off the surge, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. They're going to be facing a lot of people who have position, who have big bases, and they have their damage. So it's going to be trouble for Vanille.
It looks like the zone is now pushing towards the east. There is some sand. A new mechanic that has been introduced this season, if you haven't been watching, is sand tunneling. So if you could go ahead and sit in the sand for a brief moment, it does take a little bit. You could turn yourself into like a little sand bunny and burrow your way through and get into safe zone. But looks like Nate and 4ZR are not going to opt for that.
Yeah, very difficult option, because as soon as you do get shot up, it's very hard to box up immediately. You take a lot of damage.
And here we go. Look at everybody moving across here as Nate, 4ZR are actually getting invaded. An injection is happening here on this tarp. It is Dexy and Co. Bobby and Helix are pushing it. Another one is Siberia and Reason are now in this layer. They're all like-minded people moving together, and Nate and 4ZR are trying to survive as much as possible, Shio.
Absolutely. We go from Fortnite, a 3D game, straight to a platformer as everyone moves from right to left. Obstacles all the way in between. Goomba Stomps, though, from Nate and 4ZR are the option to, because all those low health people are right below them. They just need a few floor edits to get a bunch of refreshes, but they have to be on the same page.
Yeah, and Nate and 4ZR are in trouble. That injection into that tarp caused them to go into their hard mats, and now they're only down to their soft mats, which is going to give a big target. But hey, speaking of big targets, iDrop, now the solo player, Tayson, Mr. Savage are out, and they're at 82 below. So iDrop now is going to be aggressive, and not only that, his builds are on fire, and he's going to have to move as much as possible, Shio.
While he's going for the clutch, Toos has a bunch of elims in the feed. Frey's also popping off. Nate goes, takes down Cisse. He goes straight away down. Drop now, though. No builds down in the water. Looking for some picks. It's not possible. Floki laps that one up. So Nate has complete control, basically, of that backside low ground. Up on height, though, it's Toos, it's Snappy, and Putrick, uncontested from Slurpee. And now all the way on the King's kind of lair on the entire game, 7th zone, and this is where usually that last retake comes through. So if they hold down here, nice healing by Snappy. This should be a win for this God trio.
That was a huge harpoon play from Zappy, able to get some valuable metal there, 106 total, and that's what you're talking about. You're going to need that, as the rest of the zone is now going to have to navigate over this river, so more builds will be expended to survive. The high ground is going to have to cash in as much as possible, get as many elims, and Shayo, you called it, coming all the way from Slurp Factory, able to get a free uncontested drops, able to avoid the madness down Weeping Woods, now sitting pretty at height. But we still have a lot of warriors down below fighting, and a great layer as Setting Cammy, all of a sudden they had 0 elims into these zones, and they were able to ramp it up, and now they have a total of 8 elims, looking very strong, looking very beautiful here on the mid ground, looking for Falconry, who's always almost got caught. So hey, if you're sitting on this layer right now, you must go below, but that just means soon enough Teak and Seti and Cammy will capitalize with their power, and look at it in their aggression, fighting hip to hip, Shio.
Yep, Gladiators up on height, challengers all the way in the mid-ground layers, and now they start to connect shots. Bunch of full trios still alive, so every single edit and every single bullet will be followed by 2 more. It'll be big damage just drop down on every single layer we're seeing so far.
It looks like Snagged and Snagged and the Italians are up right now and sitting in front of the zone.
Nice, nice, nice. So that last place trio from last week, completely redeeming their kind of full storyline, getting a lot of points so far. Snack trying to stay alive, but it's not possible. Seti also down. Cammy, these guys have so many elims, 8 to boot so far, and he can still end up clutching up. Snappy, though, uninterrupted so far, and is all the way back up on height. Medkit in tow as well. Possibility for that heal off. Toos picking up Seti up in the field, up in the zone. 3 different trios left, 7 people in total. And my man Snappy's celebrating. He knows he has the insurance. The question is, will he have the possible time and the right position to pop it off? Nakos is still down below, gets a pick off on the Cammy, and now 2 trios left, a 3v3 on our screens.
3v3, Patrick and Toos now, and you got the ultimate high, Zappy, the insurance. You got Patrick and Toos sitting down to try to kind of just slowed down Floki, Clement, and Co. But hey, it doesn't matter. Down goes Clement, and the battle happens right now. If anyone looks up, Zappy, who's already vibing up there, already dancing, already doing all the TikTok dances up there. And yes, Zappy, watch him do his dance and collect the victory royale. But holy, did that trio all of a sudden started to cook up, man. You had literally 10 elims. When we first tapped into them, we saw the Cammy split and we're like, hey, they're looking for Storm Surge tags and they were doing this and that. And all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, 10 elims and the victory royale, Shio.
Yeah, for me, the question is, how much did Nakos and Clement get with Floki all the way at the bottom, right? And the MVP for that play is definitely going to be Q-Trick down below, who did so much damage. The heal off wasn't even really needed at the end of the day. Still, great game one. We'll have to toss it over to the analysts to see exactly what else we missed in that just awesome showing of EU.
Thank you guys so much. Great first cast on the day here in Europe. You know, it's a pretty small sample size, boys, but I feel like things in EU are kind of returning back to what we are used to seeing, not the crazy one-off aggressive show that was last week. I like that Shio called out Patrick there because, like, I completely agree. The moment that Snappy's on high ground waiting for the heal off, Patrick's like, well, you know what? If I could just go down and eliminate this entire other trio, doesn't matter because we'll just win.
Yeah, and that kind of role is what you describe as disrupting the trio below. You know, what you're usually waiting is that last moment for the storm to kind of close out before you start your heal off. You know, you want to give yourself as much time as possible to use those white heals up so that you can stay alive as long as possible when the heal off. And at that point, you know, he's committing on the high ground to use the heal off, so the other two members, they don't need to be up there with him. They need to drop down and they just stop that heal off of the other two teams, which is the benefit of that high ground. You know, the teams on the bottom are going to struggle much more to disrupt the guy on height unless they have bouncers and even at that point, Snappy's like so far high above them. So it's really difficult to disrupt him there. So great play from them, maintaining high ground all the way through moving, and it paid off.
Yeah, ultimately, these guys are incredibly experienced players, right? You have FNCS champions on this trio. You have, you know, just some of the better players in the region. And I think they sort of just outplayed a lot of the players. Their success leads back earlier, right, to before even those final zones. If you look at first moving, you know, they're one of the only teams that's really on their toes, right? Having great awareness is what allowed them to actually be able to just take height, right? Front side playing mid ground, they look up, they realize, hey, nobody's establishing any sort of dominance on the high ground. We can just ramp up and take this. They do front side and they're able to just hold it out for the rest of the game, and it results in the victory royale. Great stuff from these guys, and hopefully if they can keep this up, right, they can continue to stay on their toes. I think, you know, they sort of struggled last week, getting another chance for redemption today, and so starting off really, really well.
Yeah, so looking at a couple of the replays over for, and this point, this is kind of where we saw the fighting steamy stacks that we were talking about going on. And unfortunately, Link's team did pick up the eliminations on Void, Ire, and Bafo, as we're about to watch now. So they won that fight off spawn, but unfortunately, Pengu's team ended up rolling in and trying to pick up a third party. You know, this is the problem with the steamy fights, when they either last way too long, as you can see here, or they're over really, really quickly. And this fight in particular lasted way too long, and that enabled a third party to come in. And, you know, Link got the good eliminations. He fought really, really well with his team, but unfortunately, again, it just lasted way too long and he was third partied.
Yeah, this is going to be a really interesting battle of Spawn. One of the more interesting battles as well to see on Spawn. What is going to happen here with Kezix, Nate, and Fuzia? Obviously, you saw there on your screens. Kezix went down. He, you know, sort of missed the 50-50, couldn't land on the weapon in time, and so he went down. They still did incredible as a duo. Fuzia and Nate were incredible as a duo there. We saw them tarping right when Shio referred to it as like a 2D game, right? Because that camera angle was just so perfect. It showed how great they were at doing it. But hopefully now as a trio, they can get in and actually play as a trio for the remainder of the game.
Absolutely. We have to see if they can kind of transition it, because I completely agree. If you have all three members of this trio in that end game, they're absolutely going to affect every other tarp around them. Now, what I want to take a look at is the standings. We have to kind of see how things shook out after that first game. Now, 10 eliminations and the victory royale, massive. We see Snappy, Toos, Patrick, they're up there in first place. But look at this like point disparity, right? Floki, Clement, and Nakos, their second place performance, even with the additional elimination, is leaving them only a 3-point difference, Reese.
Yeah, and you know, this team is one of the most consistent teams we've seen in a long, long time. You know, over in the last season, season 4, these guys placed 7th, incredibly consistent, and they're stuck together, and it's clearly paying off. They're still being as consistent. Clement is the only EU player to be in the FNCS finals for every single FNCS so far, and so far, seems like his team is playing well enough to do it for him this time as well.
Yeah, Floki, Clement, and Nakos, they are literally just some of the best French players we have in the region. When we talk about the top regions, France is always thrown in there, and it's partly because of those guys. Obviously, they didn't make it through this week, or last week, sorry, but they do this time, and starting off well. Taking a look at this second page, though, Kezix, Forzia, and Nate, as a duo for the majority of the game, squeezing their way into that top 10, if they can sort of continue along this path, they are going to be a shoo-in to make it through the semis, and if they do, also going to be one of the top teams if you're trying to make it to that grand finals. Taking a look at the next page though, Reese.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things I'm noticing here was in 15th, we had the Play Well trio. You know, I kind of harped on about this at the earlier part of the show, in the top of the show, that this team is kind of consistently staying around that 11th, 12th, be it in the round 3s, in the round 4s, like last week where they placed 11th. And so far, you know, they're still in that spot. They're still 15th. You know, they're going to need to maybe up their game a little bit. We saw them in the early game picking up a ton of elims. We're just wiping the squad off, 3 elims straight away, but then getting into an unfortunate fight in the storm and, you know, going down. But the eliminations were really good.
You know, one team that really stood out to me there in the standings was Steelix, Heatsy, and Snag. This was a trio, one of the 10 that came back from last week, and they were in 32nd of 33 total trios, and now they're in your top 5, right? So there is a very big possibility these guys could hold on and make it through in your next top 10 for this week. However, that was just the first game, boys. There's still so much more that can unfold over the next set of games. Now, if we have to look at kind of game number 2, do we just change anything up? Because right now it feels like with just the one game, it's still not enough, right? Like, we'll have to see kind of what's going on. And this is what I want the casters to kind of break down for us in this next game as we get ready to jump over. Should we keep the same? Should we stay the course? Or should we go ahead and pivot? Because right now we need to make that happen. Let's send it over to our caster, Shy Wager, Sancho West. Let's get into it.
Let's pivot on the same course to change the lanes, so to say, just to answer Zeke's question and keep it kind of ambiguous. Let's just see what ends up happening in game 2. I mean, if we're looking at the same lanes, it's Snappy, Petering, and Toos, you know, a win off of game 1, uncontested in game 2 again. If we see a central zone again, could we see another win?
Possibly. I mean, Zappy, I mean, Levin mentioned at the break that Zappy is a FNCS champion coming in from the squads with Red Rush, Robin, and Wakey. So that championship pedigree could definitely help out this other Russian duo out there. You know, Zappy coming from Sweden. So, hey, uncontested, showing to be true.
Yeah, and this, you know, weird game plan from Kriachi, Fury, and Raze, or just Kriachi in general. I'm not sure exactly what the drop slot's going to be looking like. Last time it was kind of a pseudo invasion onto Weeping Woods. Now they're all the way over at Lazy Lake, a complete opposite side of the map. Raze, though, going down immediately. Jam side up top, also making sure that nothing crazy ends up happening as they end up getting the finish. Over at Steamy, we missed it last time, but there was a back and forth between Passive and Stormy, right?
So, and, you know, Reese kind of said something interesting that I would like to kind of ping pong off of you, Shayo. How long is too long of an engagement? How long do you want to wipe out the other trio in a contested drop?
I mean, I think every single drop has its own timer. Like Salty Towers, I feel like has a very short fuse. You don't want to stay there for too long because people could rotate in. Same thing with Colossal Coliseum, but at Slurpee, I feel like you can end up taking your time. You have to worry about a rotation maybe from Hydro 16 or the south side. At Lazy, you might be able to take your time a little bit as well, but you know, on the outskirts of the map, you have some time to play with. On spots like this, Retail Row, it's kind of in between, and Play Well seen to actually just win these engagements no matter how long they take every single time. Wishy Racks are having a tough day so far.
And here we are, another engagement here in Retail Row. This is match 2 of the 6 that we have today for the EU qualifiers. 2 are, again, top 10 move on. Now, a lot of the trios that you see here all will get in based on consistency. Like the Play Well trio most likely will get in. But at the same time, you know, Play Well trio wants to let everybody know that when I drop left them, they still want to show like, hey, we could do this. Vettel and Starsix still have a lot to prove. You know, I dropped leaving for Savage and Tayson. That's definitely a storyline we definitely have to keep an eye on. But right now, it's all calm, it's all cool, it's all chill. The ambush is set on. There was a gas canister thrown out from Starsix, and look at that. Every moment, every angle matters, and they're just waiting for the green light. And Trader and Rax and Wishy are going to have to expand all their mats they just used here, and a very interesting strategy, just going up as much as possible to get the high ground now. Play Well, they need to figure out, are we going to chase this or not?
No, I'm liking the diversity I'm seeing from Play Well here so far. Last time it was a just decisive box fight. They all dived in the same way. This time playing a war of attrition. Yes, these guys are still alive. Yes, the fight's taking long, but look at the number next to Rax's, I would say, HP bar. Just 2 builds left overall now. No more shields. This is where guaranteed elims come in at no risk of damage. Sturcix will be there to wrap it up. We'll go all the way over to Dirty Docks, where it looks like it's a 3-way total fight now.
I'm just surprised here. Nosflick and Thomas HD, no points. Most likely they were wiped out early in the Dirty Docks. This is one of the crowd favorites, Shio.
No, actually didn't make it into game number 1, so this is technically their first shot at seeing exactly how things go, and it will just be a 3v3 in total. We saw Marvin and Vanille overall with Dookie. These guys had some issues with Surge. No issues really off spawn entirely. This time that is changing. Looks like off spawn will just be a complete different engagement for them entirely, although they had the advantage before. Nas quickly switches over and now has high ground effortlessly off that back push. Marvin also pressured by Thomas. 3 different fights going on at the moment. Dookie and Vanilla are like, yeah, we're not gonna come there and help you with Thomas. I don't want to be on that side of the box. I don't want to be on that wall. Marvin, you deal with that yourself. Oh, you can't? Just got knocked? That's unfortunate. Oh, we were looking at you and now we're gone too. Man, this is just surgical. And that is the reason why they're just so good at controlling that drop, Sancho.
You know, hey, maybe they were surprised. They were like, hey, look, Lowen's here. Surprise, we're back. So that is something we'll definitely keep an eye on. Now, this is another trio that a lot of us here at the analyst desk as well, here at the caster's desk, we were saying like, wow, like this is a trio that plays pretty well in the FNCS, and we all thought that their first go was like a fluke, but clearly wasn't. The last time they entered, you're taking a look at their history. The Expert actually played in the FNCS trios in Chapter 2 with Stock K and Rexo and did pretty well. And actually, Expert goes all the way back to the FNCS squads at Chapter 2 in Season 1. So even though they're new to the scene, no strangers to FNCS, but they still have a great foundation to build upon this shot.
Yeah, meta just in general last week playing with the same trio of Skyzo and Expert. Sancho said good experience in FNCS overall. And in round 4 last week, these guys had 2 slow starts overall, a 20-second followed by a 22nd. Today, looking a little bit better with getting a few elims in that first game, but then past that in general, we're looking at Colossal Coliseum once again. Very tough spot to fight, has a short fuse, a short timer as well. We're talking about that before. You don't want to spend too long in the desert or around it. You're really just here for tags.
And now you're seeing that passive Void and Bafo were able to survive and leave Steamy. There was a lot of engagements happening on this rotation as well. The feed, while we were watching all the other action, was being lit up from this corner of the map. Bafo, passive, and Void coming in 25th in that match 1. Now looking for an opportunity to sand tunnels. You take a look at the format. We're seeing the Victory Royale, so worth so much more. 30 points, second place 25 points, in third place 20, and then a huge drop going down to 4th to 17th place. Seen as like a huge bonus going from 4th to 3rd, and of course that huge bonus of elims being worth 2 points. And now we're taking a look at the Colossal Coliseum as Kylie and Dietrich, as we saw last time, Dietrich was basically by himself for a long time and inhabited that salty towers alone, but at least has the rest of his company there, Fesroki and Kylie.
It's a very rugged path for anyone who tries to walk through the desert, and you might be landing at Steamy, but you'll have to go through these coarse, rough sands.
I hate sand. It gets everywhere.
I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it.
Hey, but at the same time, it's a very cool mechanic. I think that it is a risk reward. I mean, what's going to happen is, like you mentioned, as soon as you popped up, you're stuck in an animation, and those frame locks that you deal with, you could get beamed out of midair, and at the same time, you could get shot out of this kind of state, and all those kinds of things are gonna have to be, you have to think about when you get into the safe zone. At the same time, any kind of rivers or any kind of water or a hard material like a rock, it knocks you out of that state. But you're seeing that Void and passive and Bafo find a great rotation and into the safe zone, but look at their HP. They're going to have to take some time to heal up. And there's the other neighbor there, Kylie Fesroki, Dietrich, no doubt in the same situation, considering that they ate a lot of Storm. Oh, actually, Kylie and Fesroki are sitting pretty healthy. Huh. They must have found that that slurp truck.
Yeah, that slurp truck might have been good for them, but I thought these guys would have med kits or something. They're just putting one stack of bandages. That is rough.
Hey, this is what I'm talking about. So buff. I'm sorry. I gotta say, this is what's so rough about taking engagements out there in Steamy Stacks, and you have to go into your heals, and now you're at the max pool rotations. Shayo, it's just not easy, man.
It's not. And, you know, for that trio in specific, Void Passive and Air Baffle, I think they were my kind of shoo-in coming in to last week's qualifier for doing really well. They had the most wins out of round 3. They're looking really strong, but ended up at, you know, 26th place overall in round 4. So very similar kind of situation as Snagged over at Stealthy Stronghold. Not the best showing overall, but a lot to redeem for Void. And I was talking 11 beforehand in race. It was just, it's really rough, you know, being contested at Steam. You don't have the most consistent pathway to playing these games. So you have to pull a Kiriachi and maybe just, you know, run around the map, find another spot, or really figure out something proper to do off that drop to make it so that every game kind of plays the same. The top contenders, we saw week to week, Hen, Janice, and Chapik. So for the first place from last week, had the same game to play every single time. The people who were in trouble, who were getting invaded by, you know, a different hero every time, like Snagged, had a different game to play every single game. So if you can keep your game as consistent as possible, go through the same events, you'll have so much more control. You'll have a better day overall.
And that consistency, of course, will get you into the next stage. That's where our competitors are playing for the top 10, get advanced into the semifinals. And that's going to be very, very soon. In the next 2 weeks that happens. We still have one more qualifier to go. And of course, we're going to have the very epic, very intense reboot as well. Now we're seeing a very scary situation for Sisei Noobs and Milo, as they're just above Storm Surge. What's a good number to feel good about being in a Storm Surge? 300, 400? You want to be 500?
That's great. That's amazing.
That's amazing.
I'll call my mom mid-game if I'm ever 400 Surge above.
You gotta check your socials, check the, you know, the Twitter,
I'm posting that on Snapchat, like on anywhere. I'll post it everywhere. You know what I mean? If I'm 500 above, but I think a good number is like 150 to 200. Like you're feeling like you're on pace. It'll go down and you'll have to re-tag up again. I think you should aim to be near that 100 to 200 line. If you're above that, you're doing absolutely great. Right now, I drop Tayson and Savage, or should I just say I drop and Tayson are not doing that great. This looks like Savage's loot might have been a snipe or something over from Nakos, Floki, and Clement. We'll have to see how that breaks down, but they got a reboot before on the Tayson. This time, I guess they'll have to be on a Savage. And pass that again. That split is done from Cammy, Seti, and Teak. How did they get down here so fast? I'm always surprised by these guys. The last time they're up at Pleasant, remind you guys, these guys landed over at the crane at Dirty. Past that, Tayson's down now, so I drop left by himself. He's not going to be able to get that card either. That's way near the zone line. There's multiple trios that have to come in, and Slurpee's the only spot here right now that has a reboot. It feels like there's already some trios over there. This is rough for this trio.
Yeah, and you're taking a look at the people that are not having a rough ride. It is Zappy, Toos, and Patrick, who we just saw. We saw actually Cammy, Seti, and Teak, who are sitting in third place with 36 points, but Zappy, Toos, and Patrick with 50 points in first place. Floki, Clement, Nakos, which we see on the right side of iDrop in the moment with 47 points. Snag, Heaty, and Steelix coming from the 32nd in qualifiers 1, now in fourth place with 30 points. Sky, Falcon, and Robaz with 22 points, and that rounds out our top 5 as we get closer and closer to that 5th zone. That half in and half out. So many trios put a lot of investment into that position for half in and half out, simply because it's half in the safe zone, half in the storm zone, so to speak. But now we're not there yet. We got 2 zones to get through. This is still barely the 3rd zone. You're seeing a lot of people who like to elect for the edge of zone 2. But what do you see? What do you see, Shio? Hit me with
I'm looking at a horse race or something. Everyone's kind of on the starting line.
Right?
Literally right on the edge. And they're waiting for that shot to pop off to rotate. That is crazy. You don't get to see that every day. Sometimes it's split apart. Sometimes it's all kind of in little apartment communities. Is it iDrop getting surged? This is so sad.
I mean, he does have a couple of heals to hold on to as much as possible. The surge has been turned off because 70 players are alive. So that's going to be a moment to breathe. But iDrop now is going to have to go the solo ride. We have seen these work out so well, but I don't know, Shio. I don't know.
I mean, he already has to clutch. Can't we give him a break and maybe up the surge damage that already has? This man
There's no free
everything
ride.
Riding against him.
No. There's no free ride, man. This is FNCS trios, man. This is, you got to earn your way through. Again, top 10 get through. And Tayson, iDrop, and Savage, we saw them in qualifiers run, going north, south, all different directions, but they keep going the same direction on the leaderboard, and that is down south. But Steelix and Heatsy and Snag are moving up the boards right now, sitting in that great position of 4th place. And Steelix and Heatsy and Snag, who are coming all the way from up north. Look at that Storm Surge, 1100 above. And they're moving well as a unit. Now we're taking a look at the overview of the map. We see Benji, Amplify, Matzo coming from Hydro 16. Not a lot of rotations from them as much as Teek's company, who went all the way to the dead side rotation on the south side. But we saw them pay off in that match 1 where they were able to rotate to the Pleasant on that dead side north side. But now we're seeing Steely, Heatsy, and Snag, 2 elims, 34 points total so far.
Yeah, Cammy might be in the best spot with his trio down near the south, but no matter where Heatsy, Snagged, and Steelix are, I just feel like their position, their type of fight style is just always hard. Always in the best angles, have the best place to make as well. This will be a gas canister play. I'm trying to put down on the Flames. So much damage above Surge. They don't really need that much more. Flick going for a few more elims in the feed. So their game's been taken off already off spawn with 3 quick elims, and past that, you're getting more in this zone. Very hard to confirm long range elims here as well. Everyone's always kind of all the way on full points. Anas taking some damage though from the storm, or from the inside of the storm with an AR. He's fine overall though. He'll heal up.
I was just surprised at how many elims already Thomas, Anas, and Flick have. They literally come all the way from the Dirty Docks area and they just run rough shot throughout the entire rotation. So not only they're rotating in, now they're barely just in for the moment, but they have so many elims. And now you're seeing the gamble. Now you're seeing the investment. If Milo pulls that half in and half out, they're looking good. If Anas, Flick, and Thomas pulls, they're looking good. But so many materials were expended by Anas and company into this rotation. So they have options. But no matter what, they fight well at high, they fight well together at low. This is one of these trios that could do it all. And already they're doing it all in this match, considering they weren't able to get in with 6 elims.
Everyone still has to follow rules though, no matter what these guys can do. Question is, how are their limits looking? For Anas, just 37 AR. It'll be tough for, I would say, one of the best, long range trios to confirm any more frags with that much ammo.
And at the same time, Show, it's another race. Everyone's on the edge, has to move in again.
Now we have a few trios that have gone, a little bit closer to the zone already. Hard find there with Astra. You can see it all the way in the distance. MXR is there as well. A few tags taken by Thomas as he takes the bouncer. Dexy chooses to run instead, spending so many mats. Castery follows through with all those builds already placed on the left side, and Anas has these builds to follow as well. Has to resort to using that SMG, the legendary variety, because that AR ammo is going to be so scarce and valuable. None to split either, because I assume it would have already happened, but I've been stressing it a little bit too much. I feel like it's still a big deal because AR is kind of where they get a majority of their, refresh eliminations.
Absolutely. Now we're seeing Cammy, Teek, and Seti, who made the early move south, now opening up edits, and the Storm Surge warning means you're going to see more edits, and you can hear more shots ring out in the distance. And Steelix, Heatsy, and Snag are looking for a great opportunity to get themselves another trio wiped off the board and sent to the lobby. Pressure being put by Steelix and Heatsy and Snag, sending in some beams, but that just brings the attention for the rest of the lobby. Robaz gets himself a confirmation in the feed. Now they're going to fight hip to hip, and a lot of metal being expended here to hold on as much as possible. Now you're seeing the box fighting. This is the result of Storm Surge. Everyone looking for opportunities to get above it, like Shayo said, to be able to call their mom and be safe away from that Storm Surge as much as possible. And right now, Steelix, Heatsy, and Snag, actually Snag goes down. So now it's going to turn into a duo fight. Flames does get knocked down, but the lobby understands that there's a lot of not only elims, but the opportunity to get in and grab some loot as Floki Clement here, a very strong trio, takes out 2 of the Italians.
The final filter to pass is basically this kind of section of the zone where everyone close to you in these boxes will be looking for shots. Unfortunately, it looks like Snag will not pass that filter. It will be Nako's actually filtering him out with that shot. Heatsy now left as a solo player, caught between 3 different trios. He's got to hope that he gets 1 elimination before he goes down and gets to finish it off, but not really going to be possible. We have to move all the way into uncharted territory. That pink trio you see on your mini-map on the left has had center control of almost every zone, and now they have position on this half and half that no one is close to. An almost max rotation again for the majority of the lobby. They're getting sent on a trip they do not have the tickets for, and they are not prepped for as well. They have not packed to move this far. So it's a rude awakening for the majority of people on this side of the map.
And those pink triangles are Sapphic, Siberia, Jake, and Irez looking really good. Russian trio looking strong, and actually they're going to be very dangerous because coming into this from round 3, they had the most single game elims with 18 each, and that's actually a tie with Link, Storming Ride, and Seven Tour. So that's a very deadly trio. As you see, Fury here actually trying to contest, go up for height on the top of your screen, and they are contesting and fighting Sapphic and Irez. This is a battle. It's a build-up happening, but Irez is now sitting very, very on top of height and holding off that pressure. So now actually another trio, and that's Vortex and Co contesting height. Let's keep it up. Let's take a look. It's Irez now who is sitting at ultimate height, but still so many people understand the value of height, and a lot of people, this meta style, a lot of teams have been kind of alphing for height, using that big build energy to get up there.
Yeah, but there's only a certain times where you can actually output that energy. That was one of them. If you had your eyes slightly closed, it almost looked like a 7th zone rotation, the way everyone was harping in to get to that half and half. And now we pull away even further. No one has any builds all the way in the water. We're gonna have to move all the way across and get towards Rainbow Rentals.
And I was gonna say, man, that you're taking a look, Irez, Siberia, and Sapphic, that build-off used up so much of their mats, and so they're gonna have to find a way to hold on. This height endurance is gonna be challenged and tested, child.
Yep, and the people who are right beside them are Vortex, Nightsick, Hi Chris. We saw these guys always operating off of what the game plan was of the trio next to them. They didn't have their own pathway to move over. They wanted to look for people to bully. So will they do that again? And how long will Umi stay on height? Siberia Jake will move forward. Sapphic is there too, resting all the way towards the back. Teak does go down, but there's a lot of time to get that resurrection off. Unfortunately though, pressure's still there, so possibly that pickup denied. Astro, ADN though are going to be the front runners of the mid-ground tarp layer, and they're looking really good so far, keeping the pace for the entire lobby fast.
And let's see if Irez, Siberia, Jake, and Sapphic, who have been kind of quiet coming into this match too, may be able to turn it up here and cash in as much as possible. So far, another knock on Playwell Pinke. That's 4 elims total, and they're looking very strong. And you hear the harpoon going off in the distance as Amplify is able to get a knock on Cammy. You're hearing that harpoon off in the distance, meaning the refreshes are there. So that question of can they hold on to height is being answered with their play. They're holding on to height by getting refreshes and making sure they rack up as much of those materials as possible, Shio.
Yep, and past this, I think we have Amplify and ADN on the same layer from opposite sides. Nate also in the middle of the entire destruction going on in the center of these builds. Up top, though, Siberia Jake stays high and dry. No issues there as Benji and Amplify go down on the backside, unfortunately. Past that, though, now we see the real trios moving forward strong. No actual pressure near them at the front side of the top, but at the back, Fury is popping out with Sapphic. Floki taking some elims too. Nightsick fights the trade onto Floki though, and Katsuri goes down to Ro. Babs all the way down below. Umi can do nothing but just watch as its metal builds below him, denying him any access for any bullets or shots, any elim potentials from the top side. But they have got a few refreshes to keep this hide alive. Past that though, the zones are closing down. 5 trios left. We're going for that top 3 level of placement, and height is also getting chopped slightly. Umi has only 5 builds, is running out fast.
And you're taking a look at the low ground. I was seeing who is on the low ground that's been wrapping up everybody that's getting pushed down to them from the team from high. It is ForZR, Kezix, and Nate. And look at the number of elims, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, folks from everywhere. You're looking at a 10+ elim game right now, 58 points total, and they're racking up. And look, they have the heals. You got floppers, you got cabbages. The question is, will they be able to fight height and walk away with the victory royale? And Sapphic does go down. That opens up that door. Falconry doing some damage. So that height is going to be challenged, and that's going to be from Falconry and Sky. So hey, that's an opportunity for ForZR down on the low ground to be able to do some damage here as much as possible.
Rezumi's at a gas though. Yes, he only just rely on this tactical shot that has one bouncer to go kind of up, but Rezumi's left all the way down. Sky with a big shot over to Jake. He goes down completely. And now Robabs with Skype has control. No potential for the revive though. Rezumi left on his own in mid ground. A trio right below, hungry in the water, looking for the next shot to take, but it's the skies up above that land the first shots down. Rezumi almost picked up. How is he still alive?
I don't know.
Someone please get him out of here. Okay, now we have the 3v3 we're always looking forward to in these end games. The question is, will height reign true? Are the heals kind of in position for this high ground team? I don't think so. I feel like the floppers and cabbages should be enough for low ground. They're so far apart as well. This drop down will surely do maybe a little bit of fall damage if done incorrectly. No, Skype has enough builds to go all the way down. And now the wrap-up's coming through. Big beams from height. and still 4-0 and Kazakh survive.
And there's going to be a moment to see if that high team could essentially suffocate the other team down below. That kind of upgoing of this little elevation may be enough to cause Nate and company to kind of go back. And yes, it is. Down goes Kazakh. So now it's Nate and 4ZR to kind of hold on as much as possible. Robaz setting the beams from up top. And what a great play from Height. And front side of the zone as 4ZR goes to the backside. Valkyrie now sent out to get that elim, does enough damage, and no doubt 4ZR now is trying to find that siphon, and is it enough? He does find it just for a moment as Robaz and Sky and 4ZR, what do you have in your inventory? What do you have? And Sky now has no choice but to go in. Sky goes down. Can 4ZR survive? He does! Wow, it is Robaz. Wait a minute, Robaz and Sky, oh my. That was so close. I thought 4ZR got it. It looked like he was able to do it. He went out, almost got that siphon, but it was that play from Height and the rotation on that zone that was able to squish it out right then and there. But great play from Falcon and Sky and company to be able to take Height at that in game and win away with the victory royale.
Yeah, I like the fact that they stayed back and then kind of, as you mentioned, went up and over towards the front side to control the entire zone. And then a very good bouncer tech from Robabs to make sure he has the space available to both deny the damage from the shots and have room to pop those floppers from a distance to secure that win. Overall, an eventful game from start to finish. Zeke will have everything with Reese and Levin to talk about from the stuff we missed on the main screen.
Yes, Europe. Yes, continue to bring the action. That was insane. Reese, I really kind of quickly want to come to you. Last week, and in case you guys have not seen it, we created a package that we have put out. Reese, we had Shywidge, we had Kelly. They talked through some of the things that we were seeing. And specifically, Falconly was one of these trios that we saw was having trouble with Storm Surge in like all of last week, his trio. Now we see him make it with his trio to endgame. And he's the guy saying, look, you know what? Whatever happened last week, this week is completely different. This is fresh. And he's the one like just full send running into Storm, trying to track down fights. This trio is looking really, really good. What has changed for these guys?
It's tough to say what's exactly changed because last week, they ended up placing 20th, and overall, their games just kind of hit or miss. They really were just placing between 13th and 20th in every single individual game. They weren't getting into that good placement thresholds. They weren't getting many eliminations, and they had Misty uncontested. This time, they're still contested in Misty, but they're only taking half of the loot and disengaging earlier, which means they're not struggling with their Storm Surge as much because they're rotating earlier, which means, guess what? They're not going to go down earlier, then they can keep going to the end game. And in that right there, that last minute, Falconly almost choked the play. Luckily that zone was kind of going uphill a little bit, and that choked 4ZR into that heal off earlier than he would originally anticipated because he still had materials left. So he goes back in, and Falconly gave him that siphon, which could have been a huge mistake, but luckily because it went uphill, it ended up choking him out. So really good play overall from that team, and very, very consistent.
I'll be honest with you guys, I wanted to come into this, right, talking about how, Nate, Kazakh's 4ZR had just pretty much shown us a low ground masterclass. And to be fair, they did, right? They showed perfectly how if you're playing low ground, even sort of like mid ground, right, you want to be prioritizing, staying ahead. You'll be able to pick up so many limbs, right? You see Nate there on low ground, just holding out his charge, max charge, just waiting for people to just drop down into his crosshairs. And it was so effective. The key detail, though, they were literally played that perfectly up to the final moments. Always have to be aware of the terrain, right? Wasn't aware of the fact that it's going uphill. Once it's going uphill, you want to prioritize staying ahead at that point. You can prioritize staying ahead the whole end game, right? That's all good and well. But if you don't remember to do it at the time it crucially matters, right? When it's going up a hill, you see exactly what happens there, right? Falconly and that, they're able to just sort of suffocate them down the hill, and ultimately it wins them the game.
Yeah, and just looking back at some of the earlier game clips, how all of this unfolded, if we're looking back through Kiriachi, Jamside, and Fury, if you remember back to the last package we talked about, they ended up landing Weeping, right? And they got bullied off spawn, so they ended up changing up. And here's our team that was performing extremely well. Arizumi, Safik, and Siberia as well. These guys changing up a little bit, moving in, and hitting a beautiful snipe. And that right there, Storm Surge sorted.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things we've seen this season, right? What players are able to do with that sniper rifle. Being able to sort your Storm Surge out. Thomas HD, one of the better players in the lobby right now, over at Dirty Docks, their home. They won out this off-spawn engagement, and you can see the L-Dance comes through, right? Trying to taunt the players a bit, right? You don't want these guys coming back giving you problems. Look at this, though. Benji Fishy, he's so impressive, right? He is so impressive, and he's about to make a play here, which I think everybody at home will appreciate. That rocket launcher comes through.
Yes!
Harpoon, Crippen down. Oh my goodness, Benji Fishy, you are one bad boy.
Oh,
I can't believe my eyes when I see that guy. He is so amazing. Taking a look at the standings though, Train H boys on top, Sky, Falcon, Lee, Robabs taking that first place spot. It's a good day for the Frenchies.
it's a really good day, a really, really good day overall. And, you know, they've really turned it around from last week where obviously, like we already mentioned, they weren't performing as well. But moving on to our second page, you know what? We saw Seti, Cammy, and Teak in that last game. It was a really tough game for them. They were playing so good in that earlier zones. And as soon as zones started moving, it was a problem on the bounce there. You know, they hit a poor bounce pad way too in the open, and it just left them exposed to high ground. We saw Safik just absolutely beaming Seti, and that was kind of just a downturn of what was a really, really good game at that point.
Take a look here at 14th and 15th. AD and Hardfine, Astros and Z, Amplify, Matzo, Benji, right? There's a bit of a tension between the two, right? Obviously, last week, ADN was playing with Amplify and Matzo, and now it's Benji Vishy, and so both teams want to do incredibly well. Both teams want to show, hey, look, you know, you were the problem, not me, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how those guys, you know, sort of play things out as the tournament goes by. Really interesting stuff all around. I think I've been super impressed with the level of play we've seen. I think certain top players who necessarily don't get, you know, the bright light shone on them all the time have really stepped up to the plate. And like we said at the very beginning, right, it's a great day for France, clearly.
Dude, I love that because, yeah, it's like we're seeing so many different pockets of players that are performing at high levels, doing crazy things, low ground, high ground, retakes. It's all showing up here. And don't forget, we got 4 more games and we're getting right back into the action. So we're going to kick it back to the casters. Let's get back into it.
Let's set it up indeed. It's me and Sancho up in the business right now for EU Qualifier 2.
I hear you. I think there you go. There you go. Hit me with it. Hit me with it. Hit me with it.
I was thinking Qualifier 2. We're up in the business now for EU. We'll see exactly how it goes down and how things will mix up in game number 3. Falcon Lee, Robabs, and Skype all the way over at Misty Meadows. Nakos there as well. And both these teams having good games despite being contested so far.
Yeah, the neighbors not only in drop spot, but on their leaderboard. And like Levitt and Reese said, France is on top, taking up 1, 2, 3 of the top spots and looking very strong. And Sky Falconry and Robaz were able to kind of take that high ground at the very last minute, and they just went up for it. And we talked about high ground takes, and we saw one happening into that, you know, against Siberia, Jake and Safik, and they went up. But Falcony and Sky, you talked about it. They timed it perfectly, and they were able to not only capitalize on that, but walk away with that Virtue Royale.
Yeah, double perfect timings and getting that crucial revive as well, which is huge. From that trio past that door at Retail Row, looks like nothing is kind of, you know, really going back and forth, so to say. There is not really too much strategy breaking down between these fights. It's just over and over again. Head-to-head collisions from Pushy Trader and Rax against the Play Well trio. Right now, Play Well actually not looking too good at all. Looks like they got aggressed on first. Mistakes fixed from Trader's squad, and they're the ones to win the engagement.
Yeah, I mean, that is, you know, Trader's company is currently sitting in 33rd place right now, and it's actually going to pick up their first elims of the day here in round 4 of these qualifiers, week 2. And Kirachi and Jamside, we talked about them being dropless. Looks like they found a home out there in Lazy Lake, and sometimes within these tournaments, you gotta mix it up a bit. Maybe find a trio that you could actually match up well. And Jamside is one of those people that knows how to do that. He's been a part of this EU region for a very long time. I mean, this coming from Russia, you're taking a look at just the accolades. He was actually in the World Cup days playing with Proxima Star. And so that's kind of crazy that they've been that long. Actually, let me take a look here. Actually, it was Domentos that he was playing with the Royal all those times ago. So very nice to see Jamside being a good thing. Is actually legendary, his other trio mate who's played with the World Cup duos with Proxima Star. But hey, Trader, you got yourself on the board. Let's see what you can do with it. Maybe absorb the power of Play Well, and maybe that'll help you. As we said, play good, play great.
Ultimately, hopefully,
play well.
They haven't really. Even if they do end up playing well past this point, it's all the way towards that end game, having the experience of the first 2 games as well. It feels like everyone's kind of in a flow now. They found the layers they like. They understand who are kind of the leading captains of height, who likes to play low overall over these last 2 games. For a trio who's just winning off spawn now in any of these hot contested spots, like Steamy Stacks as well, I'd have a rude awakening, understanding that this is not even the hardest portion of the game you have to go through. It's just the first test. And now Void has been not getting, you know, the most flashy grades in these first few exams. Passive there as well, trying to savor something from this fight down below on the walls. 7 Link and Stormy Right have been, you know, successful off spawn and winning this engagement at Steamy.
But you're seeing what could happen here is now 7tor is trying to hold the wall as much as possible, try to get a pre-fire shot with a great tack, does not find the connection that he was looking for. It's gonna have to retreat. But this is the kind of a metaphor throughout the entire day between Pafo and Passive and Link and Void. I'm sorry, you're seeing that it's leading to a single-digit day so far from this very strong trio. This is something about Steamy Stacks. And now they did pull zone, so this fight's going to last a little bit longer. A lot of their pulls of the day have been going away from this POI. As you see the shots between Void and Stormy Right happening on the top side. Now the pressure is on. Yeah, Passive goes down. Stormy Right applying more pressure here. Void now has been converted into points. Link, Stormy Right, and 7tor looking strong. And just to correct myself, Jam side played with 7 SSK7 in the World Cup duos, coming in 33rd place. So we know Jam side is looking to add to that trophy case in terms of accolades. Continuing on that terrorist Hamas HD, and no, the continuation's over. The end for match 3. Unable to get in match 1 and match 3 to get out at the hands of Marvin and Dookie here.
For how? This is like, seriously, I was hoping for just consistency across the map, because in Steamy, right, for Passive's trio, they disengaged in game number 2, because as you mentioned, Sancho not getting all the zones in the game. You want to make sure, you know, if you're not going to win the fight, just go away. And one time they try again, they lost like they were supposed to. The 7tor's trio, like they were earlier on in the day. Now Dookie, Marvin, and Vanille must have learned something in that last fight. Let's not just leave, you know, an isolated 1v1 for, I think it was Dookie to fight against Thomas HD. Let's actually help out and play together. Maybe we can trump the God trio over and Dirty, and they do. They make it look absolutely clean as well. As these off-spawn fights are kind of ending, we'll notice the people who were uncontested or had a set game plan are already on the move. The people who are closer towards the top side of the board as well. Looking at the second place trio for the day for the qualifier round number 2. Sploky, Clement, and Nakos. These guys 7th in that last FNCS.
And they're looking good. I mean, they're very consistent. This trio has been together since June of 2020. And that first played is basically, it was Floki and Nakos that played together for the longest time. And they got Clement in the fold back in May 2020. So one of these long-standing EU regions that is not mixing it up. And we're seeing a lot of new chemistry being created with Benji, Matzo, and Amplify, who currently sitting in that 15th place. It's so interesting to see ADN and that trio in 14th place with Hardfine and Astro. So many of these things, but I just think that long as you, like, I thought going into this FNCS, Shio, that trios will stick together. I thought definitely ADN, Matzo, and Amplify would stick together. I thought the play well with Beto, Stir6, and iDrop would stick together considering their success. But just like Savage said on social media, sometimes you got to make a risk. You got to step out of the box. You got to play for the win. You can't just stick with what you know. Sometimes making that decision to risk it for it all could lead to gold.
Always decisions to make. I also, you know, kind of expected that a lot of trios would stay together, but as soon as one breaks apart, there's a kind of trickle effect where another one needs to change as well if you want to make do and find, you know, a new squad to have in total. These trios like Command, Floki, and Nikos, who've played for a long time, get that experience built up. They get trust. They get a cool play style as well from today. We've been seeing Nikos and Floki just pop off with those, I would say, engagement type eliminations. The first ones to pick up the shot. Reese mentioning Clement's kind of the most prestigious, or one of the most prestigious players kind of just in EU in general, making almost every single, or if not every single grand final since FNCS has been a thing. Past that as well, it just looks like it's Clement playing as a sturdy base with 2 long arms, that being Floki and Nakos reaching out, getting elims and coming back. Yeah, tripod trio. But past that, a lot of names still trying to be built. Ogrechik, Mark, and Nifs look like they had such a good spot overall in that Slurpee zone we just saw a game ago. Ogrechik with the over peak as well, got sniped, unfortunately.
It happens. I mean, we saw a stat, the EU region, 80% of their hits with that sniper. I mean, they're so accurate with it. And you talked about Storm Surge being a huge factor. When you open up that window and where you're over peaking, you're sitting on top of a build, it's sniped. They're not going to miss. I've known that fact. Pros do not miss. You think you're good, you think you're fine, all of a sudden you get dinked right in the dome, and you get sent out and you get converted. And Astro, Hardfind, and ADN are looking for that. And this is one of those teams that they are not going to be able to get in on consistency unless they have a great performance the next round. They're going to try to get in as much as possible now. When you switch a trio, you talked about the, trying to find new chemistries a little bit ago. That resets all your series points here for the FNCS. So Astro, ADN, and Hardfind are going to try to have to get into that top 10. And you're seeing right now, they're just on the outside of that. Just on the outside.
Yeah, the first 2 games, a story for most trios, regardless of how your previous week went as well. It's kind of, make those over peaks, make those edits, look and test the waters left and right. With Ryu in the game as well, I can say, play footsies a little bit with the trios around you. But once you get into game 3, right, once you're in this position and you're moving on to the back half of games overall, you're gonna have to be aiming for, what is that pedestal for you looking like? Where's top 10 realistically for your trio and the current spot you're at the leaderboard? That's the question everyone should be asking themselves. For Eclipse right now, watching him try to zip line over, crane to crane, 24th right now, 6 total points. They haven't activated, haven't had a performance just yet. No chance to really say they're playing in these quals so far. This could be it though, with this fight. An extra 6 points on top, a good placement, they're going to be looking good, but Eclipse gets cracked immediately while trying to knock on that door. He gets slammed in the face, and now the fight breaks out in some grand fashion.
It was a grand fashion indeed. What a flourish, what a style, what a kind of like a superhero entrance coming off the zip line, jumping in, now all engaged and holding on to the high. But they have to be careful as much as possible. As you see Trident going for that sniper shot, but this is what they didn't capitalize on it. They blew up the cards. Shayo, you look disgusted. Shayo, hit me with it.
I don't look disgusted.
I mean, you're shaking your head.
I like the pressure overall these guys were putting down, but I've seen it in the last 2 games that Luci's played. They slowed down a little bit. Trident as well. They maybe overthink the fight they're about to be in, and then it leads to them just getting, victimized by the zone behind them.
That's true. I mean, a lot of investment in hard mets went in. You saw the metal builds. I could see why you were shaking your head, and they made the highlight play. I mean, you're coming in on a zip line. I mean, you're not doing that just for Storm Surge tags, right? You're gonna have to get in. Now, granted, it did get them 985 above the Storm Surge as 6 players has to go down. So they were able to make a little highlight Storm Surge play, but that's not something you could really clip and put it on the social side.
Oh, you have to understand, Sancho, sometimes this game is decided by one build, by one shot. And if you misplace that in the 2nd or 3rd zone where these guys are now, those are the mistakes you're going to have to go back, review, and see that you make. Unfortunately, because of that play, because of even just 5 more seconds in that position of that all-in they had off the zip line, they're taking so much zone damage, are basically out of shields, are forced to chug splash just to survive the zone. And yeah, you're mentioning their surge damage looks good. Their position, though, and their likelihood of surviving and playing out game 3 just looks bad.
And that is the ingredients that it takes to be a strong FNCS trio. And those ingredients are you going to need to be cooking at the right time to make that ultimate pie. And that pie is that FNCS Trios Championship. And it looks like these chefs are all out of ingredients and they're all out of time, as now they're on the complete wrong end of this Stormhold, as Eclipse most likely will get eclipsed by the strong, I guess, Moonbeams?
This the trio. These guys drop down to fight are the ones to have the better position, the better rotation, look back, and then pick them right off again. A nice revenge scenario right there. But what I did like from Eclipse overall in Trident is the selection of fight they took. It was nice and isolated. They took the damage down. If they fix that timing and end up doing that in the next game, it should be really good for their overall game plan. I like that part in total.
I like this, Coach Shio here. A little positive reinforcement, and a little bit, hey, you know, a couple of things you could VOD review just a little bit. Maybe not expend a lot of the mats, but the action still unfolds and more trios are moving through. And iRes just misses one of the 20% of the shots that did not connect for the EU region, but what is connecting right there, Sabir, Jake, and Safik and iRes had a great performance in the previous match, and now they're doing really well right now. Sabir, Jake picking up 3 elims. This Russian team now moving into Craigie Cliffs, which was kind of already ransacked here as much as possible. And this is what's so important for trios, is once you get into zones 3 and zones 4, you're not going to find a lot of opportunity to find loot. You're going to have to find it off your opponents. And that's the same time with refreshes in terms of material. You're going to have to get that elim, get the materials from them or the siphon, but at the same time, there's not a lot of opportunities to farm up. As you've seen, everybody just eats it all up there, Shio.
Yeah, 5th place for Safik, Sibira, and Razumi, but you have to imagine it does not feel good to lose control. These guys had such a beautiful display of height last game. They were almost a shoo-in to win overall, but then lost that fight in what I would say would be the 8th zone overall. People all the way up top now because of that fight, because of the overtake, are Skype, Falcon Lee, and Robabs. Just by 1 point, though, behind Floki, Clement, and Nakaz, who we're seeing just have, you know, stellar performances game to game.
Yeah, and that stellar performance from Sapping Siberia Jake in round 3. They were able to get 43 points, the most in any of that EU region for round 3. 43 points. They had a 1st place finish with 18 elims, so they have it in them to pop off. And they need to pop off just to be able to get that taste out of their mouth of having so close to letting that victory royale slip out of their fingers.
That's still good placement overall, still consistency over the day. They go
right
beside another trio, but oh my goodness, I think Irazumi got hit with an RPG. It's Benji fishing up by and Matzo up top with an explosive entrance and a welcoming that might not be appreciated by Razumi. He's gonna go straight back down. These guys have 3 elims so far for this game, closing the gap between them. 4ZR, Nate, and Kha'Zix as well, and Snappy, who's right ahead of them too.
We're just taking a look here as well. Craigie Cliffs has produced the most wins out of any drop spot, which we just passed through. And now we have a new line created here by Zone 4. Zone 4 has created this another congestion zone here on the south side. And looks like Putrick, Toos, and Zappy here are fully committed to that hype. Benji and company are committed to hype. They have that RPG landing in the Hydro 16. Coming into this match in 15th place. And Floki, Clement, and Nakos in that top 3. Looks like Storm Surge. Only 5 people have to go down. I don't think Storm Surge is going to be a factor on this rotate, because you're going to see a lot of people go down heading into the safe zone. And it's going to be dangerous locations here. Going to take a peek into the future. If this zone pulls any further north, you're going to have a lot of water to navigate through. So holding on to as much resources as possible on these rotations are going to be key. But it looks like Floki is stacked with a lot of floppers. You've seen it. His inventory is just fished out completely, so no doubt Floki will be that man. So he's going to be very important for this trio looking forward, folks. Let's set this up here. If Floki goes down, that's going to kind of throw a wrench in Nakos and Clement's plan, because they're all invested into that heal off, so to speak. But heal offs don't matter if you're down and you're out, brother.
Yeah, at the same time, it's kind of like a game of protect the Prime Minister with Floki, but he's the one on the front lines, needs no Secret Service to land the shots on the Dookie too. Marvin's right behind him as well, but Neil, these guys were so good at playing a long-range game, but Floki goes down, and that is insurance removed. Now, Nakos looking absolutely naked. There's no chance for, never mind, Marvin all the way at the back. We didn't get to see the 2 elims pop off quick. Looks like Floki was just there for a little bit of bait. Question is, where can they really get that res? Is Steamy a possibility?
I mean, that's what's scary about investing so much into that heal off, putting so much into that. You don't have a lot of like offense to defend yourself. Essentially, you're a walking llama, but a walking llama filled with fish. I don't know if llamas eat fish. I'm not a scientist. Maybe Reese and Levin may know. They're smarter than me. But what I do know is Bad Sniper, Laxus, and Tripper are still having the same result that they had previously in qualifying 1. I mean, they haven't popped off just yet. They're still middling in the middle of the pack of the leaderboard, but this may be a strong opportunity. They do kind of pull that half in and half out, but you know who does? And I know who's there. It's Benji, Matzo, and Amplify. They're sitting pretty, and they have that RPG in their arsenal. So if anyone's gonna try to contest height, it ain't gonna happen. And at the same time, another person that's up there is looking like it's Toos, Patrick, and Zappy, who's also sitting at height. So we may be seeing a sneak ambush play here that's may be happening soon, but he has that pressure cooker of that charged shotgun ready to go. So, hey, if you're going to try to take height away from Puchik 2s, you may pay that toll on HP.
No, it's about knowing your limits and knowing exactly what you're able to do. I don't feel like Bat Sniper, Trippin, and Laxus knew last week. Their first 2 games, both 31st place. Actually, their first 3 were all 31st. Now today a 5th, followed by a 16th. I think they know not to challenge height when Putric 2s are there, when Benji's in the mix with an RPG. They'll stick to the low ground. They'll stick to these box fights. Unfortunately, Bat Sniper will not stick around to see possibly the rest of this game. No, they'll have that revive there shortly. And still, a good rotation, slightly rough though. Toos gets picked out of the sky while trying to move away by Pinke all the way up top. Unfortunate for one of the height contenders that could be there to challenge Benji, but at the same time could have just dodged an RPG game towards the end.
And here we're going to take a look at the low ground. We saw what's happening at height. We know that Benji and company sitting up there, but Steelix snagging heats here on low ground. But look at the elevation that all the low ground teams have to navigate. It's not going to be a clean layer. There's going to be moments that there's going to go up these elevations. And we already saw when it goes up even a baby little hill, that could cause so much pressure from the low ground team, and that layer switch could be deadly. But Tripper needed to hit that snipe. And they would have got that snipe. That would have been the green light. But that's just going to give that warning shot for Matzo just to pay attention just a little bit more.
Yeah, for this trio right here, although things look good, Bat Sniper's back up. He has all the shields available, you know, to relive another chance of this game again. The issue is they use so many mats to basically get him up, to kind of relieve the pressure. There's just 15, I think, on Trippern. It might just be 15 across the board for everyone. And if Benji chooses this trio to RPG, I don't think they'll have the defenses left at all for this to be possible.
And they are in the front, basically. So more and more fortune is falling their way. They have 5 RPGs. Can they capitalize on that? As you already see the duo of Umpify and Matzo already pushing forward. So now Benji is going to take the role of a strong fragger and try to get as many beams as possible and discourage any height contestation with that RPG. But he's limited in ammo. Looking for opportunities to get that refreshes mat is going to be huge for Benji, and he's not going to be able to create pressure with this AR. He's going to have to rely on that RPG.
At the same time, he's playing so many different roles. Not only does he have the RPG, he has to be the person going for refreshes with the harpoon. He has one of the best ARs. He has to be the person doing the most damage as well to anyone peeking around. This might be too overwhelming for Benji. The only way this actually goes bad is if these guys get overtaken and Benji's not looking at the right spot at the right time, but he finds a few materials. He has that harpoon to be able to make those isolated RPG plays as well, and he switches over to a purple normal AR, so he has that fire rate and speed, the close range versatility, drop down into these boxes, get close and personal. Here's another RPG harpoon combination on the teak. It lands. No damage comes through just yet. Midground gets affected once again. All the way on low, the Craggy Cliffs trio 0-2 with Hycris on the lead.
And what's happening right now, as you can see, look at this shot here. What a beautiful overhead shot that's happening as the zone is going to push over old Bills. And you're going to see the chaos that's happening as you see Luke Boy and High Joe sitting at the front side of the zone. Lincoln 7-Tor sitting right in that middle of that. Zappy is really in tough trouble here, but at the mid ground, Cammy, Seti, and Teak were trying to contest Benji and company, but Benji replied with that RPG and shut that down. Can Benji shut down another trio? And Cammy and Teak and Seti, they're in trouble here. They're getting beamed down as much as possible, but the zone is now pushing up a hill here. This mountain is going to make things so difficult for everybody else, and this is going to play in big favor for Benji and company.
Excellent zone control as well. Taysom goes up and gets shot down. A free prize one for Benji at this high ground circus. My goodness, these guys have excellent zone control overall as well. Benji shooting from back to front. Umpify and Matzo looking from front to back. There's no place to hide or escape from the pressure this high ground trio is offering up for free. And past that as well, every mid ground trio cannot actually fight box to box. They can't look down because they have to cover their heads. Benji's here to shoot, and he's still going forward. Just 3 elims so far, but they've pressured every single trio to go pump up, be box to box. This is where they get all those elims. Matzo and Umpify picking up 2. Benji refreshing with the Bills over and over. I'm not sure how Nightstick is still alive. He's kind of getting all the mats from these mid-ground trios trickling down, all the pressure Benji's creating. He finds other bouncers as well. He's looking for rockets though. There's just 1 RPG left.
And the harpoon play is proving so fruitful for them, having only 70 AR, now up to 270, and that is enough for Benji, Umpify, and Matzo to continue sitting on the team. But Seti is doing a great job. Like they mentioned at the analyst, Senza staying in front of the zone as much as possible when these elevations have me. Cammy, Teak, and Seti are doing really well considering that they ate 2 RPGs to stop their height retake now. It's all in the hands of Matzo, Amplify, Benji, a trio that literally just formed a week ago. Playing the Cypher PK Cup for crying out loud just to get some reps in.
RPG.
But here, they're getting that RPG in and the ultimate rep in here of match 3 of the EU side of things. And now Benji's giving the green light to go down low. Vortex is getting the beams. Amplify is here to back up Benji, and they get that victory royale in the 3rd match trial. But what a textbook performance. And like you mentioned, zone control, walking away with 7 limbs. And my, oh my, going from 15th place, no doubt that's going to push them up that leaderboard, Shy.
Talk about shutting down any possibility of anyone thinking about touching height or getting to play Fortnite, right? Benji basically got to play by himself with Matzo and Amplify. That was a free game entirely, and just perfect play from height by that trio.
Unbelievable. And just to think that they just literally got together in less than a week. But we've been together for a long time, and these boys who literally got put together, and for this FNCS trio, let's go ahead and get it to Zeke, Reese, and Levin. What you guys got for us?
I mean, is there a better trio?
No.
I'm looking at these two. There it is. Guys, we sat here this last game and we were just talking through that last game. MVP is 100% the harpoon in Benji's inventory. That was the ultimate game changer, going from literally 70 medium bullets to 300, all because Benji had the awareness, was calm, and he's like, look, all I need is to find elimination, find the resources that I need. I don't need mats, and we can close out this game. Textbook, Reese, textbook.
Yeah, like most of the time at the start of the season, we weren't really seeing the harpoon being used to its maximum potential, right? Teams are just running triple snipe. It's a lost cause of inventory having 3 snipers in inventory. So now people are really utilizing that harpoon really, really well. And you can notice that, just as you said, he was prioritizing using it on ammo and not materials, because they have enough materials on high ground to keep them moving. They just need to get the ammo to pick up the eliminations and continually pressure the players down below.
Have you guys ever tried to join a house party room and like you're just locked out, like you know, nobody wants to let you in, you know, everyone's having a good time without you? Like the RPG is sitting there in Benji's inventory, like just waiting for its time to shine. Like the harpoon was just getting so much love, and rightfully so, right? Because the harpoon ultimately, you know, as much as they have the rocket launcher, the harpoon is the win condition, right? The ammo that he was able to be able to pick up through that, the mats he was able to use to actually be able to retain high ground with, that was so crucial, right? And ultimately, right, this is what we said in the pre-show, right? If these guys landing at Hydra 16 can get an opportunity to use that RPG, they're going to win a couple games, surely, and they did.
Yeah, and you know, Skype, Falcon, and Romabs moved their way up to the top of the leaderboard there. You know, we didn't see much of them there, and they still managed to get 7th with 4 eliminations. So managing to get some placement points, but also 4 elims, that's 8 placement points total, keeping them in that first place slot, 16 points ahead.
Taking a look at the next page, though, you can see here they've been able to sneak their way in 7th place, Amplify, Matzo, and Benji. Great stuff all round for them. That's going to give them the confidence moving forward, right? We talk about how these guys are a newer trio. This is the boost they need. Taking a look at that next page, though, Reese, you can see Kiriashi, Jamside, and Fury in 11th place, just on the outside, just on the cusp.
Yeah, they're just on the cusp, but like these guys off spawn have been really, really good since they switched over to going to Lazy Lake. You know, they've been winning those last 2 games, but so they, you know, they managed to be consistent on their eliminations. But again, you know, they only end up in 14th place that last game, so only securing themselves 3 placement points. And you know, as we know, it needs to be a lot higher than that. But some of these zones are really, really tough for these teams. Like that's a tough rotate to go all the way to the northeast, and the game before was all the way in the southwest. So some really tough rotates for some of these teams, definitely.
Yeah, man. And guys, don't forget, we got another 3 games here in Europe. But you know what? Right now, I need a siphon. So the best trio, we're going to step away and go to a break. But when we return, we'll have a siphon. We'll have the next 3 games of Europe. And of course, our cast will be back to cast all the action. So get up, go get hydrated, and we'll see you after this.
Early aggression, something the best teams are using to speed up their games and win tournaments. Today, we dive into Game 2 of NA West and see how 2 different teams use an aggressive early game and translate it to an amazing end game. I'll toss it over to Resub to break down team number 1.
Team number 1 is Favs, Wavy Jacob, and Jay, the first place team from round 4 of Qualifier 1. Starting off their game at Misty Meadows uncontested, they have a lot of time to build up strong loadouts for early aggression. Every member of the trio starts off the game with epic ARs, double Dragon Breath shotguns, max minis and shields, and fast heals such as floppers and chug splashes for aggressive plays they might want to take. With 300 ammunition and a favourable zone to play with, stacked is an understatement for how well off they are. They botate over to Kai to start some early aggression, looking for tags, but diving deeper and committing to third party a fight. One team disengages, making it a 3v3, but it's completely unfair on the trio who's mid-fight. This is a fully stacked Misty Meadows trio versus half of Catty Corner. Power levels are not equal at all, making it an easy fight for Favs, Wavy, and Jay. Early aggression for this trio is invading these weaker POIs fast in the first zone and then drawing out fights knowing you have the best loadout on your side of the map. Using early aggression correctly also gives you an advantage when Storm Surge comes around. They got to play defense when Surge started to do damage, getting the option to delay a box dive from Falconer's trio, who were forced to get desperate since they never got to be aggressive earlier in the game. For Jay though, early aggression lets him play more patiently, playing around the Surge ticks, making his enemy an easy target as the whole trio is easy to clean up. The earlier Kai fight also netted them peppers, which helps them get through every circle's rotation, and now they have 12 elimination points, stacked items, and about 500 AR ammo per person to put permanent unstoppable pressure on every trio around them.
Uncontested methodical gameplay from Favs, Wavy, and Jay. Completely different story though for the second trio we're focusing on today. Reet, Macon, and 40R Storm. Already contested at Hydro 16, they focus on starting fights with big damage. Although Reet goes down, Macon gets the trade, and by now you can see the difference in early aggression. This team is more about starting the fight at a high speed and staying there, going all in, finishing fights fast, but taking a lot of damage in the process and having less shields overall post-fight. With this style of aggression though, they force open opportunities no one else on the map can, going right through trios instead of playing around them. That beautiful sniper shot from Macon gives the trio a completely isolated fight to engage. And either way, it's Reet's team, so you know they're going to follow up on a fight. The pressure starts fast and doesn't slow down. The opposing team has no chance to heal up or build in a proper defensive way to buy any sort of time. This forces that team to make an all-in on Macon, which he survives marvelously in the 50-50. 40 yards in the fray too, playing off of the pressure his team is creating, finding a neat angle to enter the fight and just keep the pressure up on every opportunity. It's like they have unique heat-seeking sensors built into their crosshairs. Both 40R and Reet focus the same individual player from multiple angles throughout the entire fight. This godlike non-stop pressure makes the fight last less than a minute, in which afterwards they're already on to their next aggressive position. This is where you can see how Reet's trio is more proactive because of their drop and loadout and aggression. Instead of playing around trios for surge and picks, they force some damage in with an RPG, noticing that the team below them was taking surge damage. This is a crucial time for a map refresh too, and this trio takes things into their own hands instead of waiting for the opportunity, knowing the enemy team can't heal. They secure free healing points and insurance for the rest of their endgame. How did early game aggression really affect the rest of the game for both these trios though? We have to bring in Kelly to give us an endgame breakdown.
Now we've made it to the endgame, where Favs, Wavy Jacob, and Jay see themselves with a stacked loadout due to a few stress-free rotations. Their early aggression allowed them to shift their focus from diving boxes to surviving, and even an opportunity for them to split more than usual. Once the low ground battle began, so did their reign of terror. Ripping apart other panic trios and grabbing several eliminations garnered them 24 elimination points and a third-place finish. Even with great rotations, another top team, Reet, Macon, and 40R Storm, ran into some trouble after Macon went for a pick and in return is picked off himself. However, between effective early aggression, smart engagements, and great timing, the duo was prepared to face the endgame regardless of being down a man. 40R and Reet pop off, and with a bit more fortune, the victory royale could have been in their grasp, but instead they finished the game in 4th place with an incredible 13 eliminations.
With early aggression, you can be reactive and planned out, like Favs, Wavy, and Jay, or proactive and fast-paced, like Reet, Macon, and 40R Storm. Either way, you set yourself up with great loadouts, huge point swings, and some top finishes in the highest level of tournaments. It's hard to pull off, but keep practicing those game plans off the drop, and who knows, maybe you can be qualifying for a finals in your region. That's all the hot action we have though for now. Stay tuned for more fast pushes in NA West and beyond this FNCS. We'll be seeing you on that battle bus.
Welcome back to the Fortnite Champions Series. It's your favorite trio, the real FNCS champions. Really mostly me carried by these two. And guys, that battle bus beep beep is not only for the return, but it's time to get back into the action. We're kicking it over to Sanchois and Shy Wager for game number 4 here from the FNCS.
From a trio on the desk to the big duo in game, Shy Wager, Sancho West. We're here. Almost put an H on that S. I understand Zeke's problems now with the names.
It happens. It happens. But man, we're past the halfway point. This is match 4. This is where things are, you know, they're looking at the leaderboard, and if you want to call it a threshold, sitting at 50 points, and that's going to be held by Link, Stormy Right, and 7 Tour. And you're looking at Snag, Heatsy, and Steelix with 59 points. So they're just above that, looking pretty good and pretty well at the moments here. But the question was an unbelievable win from Benji, Matzo, and Amplified, going to the other member of that historic trio of ADN, Matzo, Amplified. It's ADN here with Hardfight and Astro in a tough situation. Now, this is the second time we've seen them push this Blue Bridge fight, but this time they're being a little bit more aggressive. Last time they took an AR kind of front and they were sending beams towards builds, but this time they decided they're going to make sure they wrap up this fight a lot faster and kind of alpha them out of the spot for the precious metal.
All they looking blue so far are their feelings, because they're outside the top 10 for the moment. Of course, that's what Sancho was talking about before. 7 Tour holding things down with 50 points. That's where everyone wants to be at. And here is the trio we're talking about. 7 Tour, Stormy Right, and Link. Interesting. Always better to have 2 cars up the assets. Question is, can they find some real estate now?
That's the thing, man. You could have all the cars in the world, but they always say it's all about property investments. And right now, this trio has been struggling with that property investment, deciding to leave out of the drop spot a lot early. And they're out and about. They're going to try to look for a nice, maybe somewhere on the coast. I don't know, maybe somewhere high up. You know, the more exotic where you landed is going to be a lot more investment will be made. For now, Vettel, Stursix, and Krizzy, we were kind of going all in on them. They were just on the outside in the previous qualifier in week 1. They were just falling in 11th place. They've been having these crazy engagements out here in Caddy Corner. So these little small skirmishes, and I think that's been slowing down their rotations. We saw in the previous opening match that they had a long storm fights, and now we're seeing this another engagement kind of break out here outside the safe zone 1. And 4ZR, this is not good for 4ZR, who they've been doing really well throughout this entire match. 4ZR takes an ill-advised bounce and gets knocked. And 4ZR, who the French team, they were doing so well coming into 5th place here, getting a little hurt early, but at least Nate there is able to get Jerky back.
Yeah, I think they already had the 2 picks beforehand. There was a 3rd trio in the mix as well. That was Castries. They'll kind of go far away. But they're inside that top 10. They're having a good day so far.
I was going to say, like, this shows that Nate and Kezix and 4ZR are being aggressive outside their sweaty sands. They're out here trying to contest that team out in Holly. They're out here trying to find the scavenger route trios, and they're looking to up their eliminations. And not only that, we've been seeing, sweaty sands has been uncontested for most of the time. And when you're uncontested, you have to solve that problem of storm surge. And Nate, 4ZR, and Kezix take that fight, but now they have to take some time to get back up to a stronger hold, and they have to rotate, considering that they did get max pool, because now we saw a peak of the safe zone is definitely way over here on the East Coast.
Yeah, getting to look at how Sweaty Sands operates outside of its drop, getting to look at all the obvious things and stand out things we've been looking at so far in the first 3 games has been nice, but something flying under the radar is this trio on your screen: Icris, Nightsick, and Vortex. These guys landing over at Craggy in general. I've been having a lot of success. 2nd place so far overall today with the 78 points. So from what I've been seeing, they kind of have this kind of, I don't know, against the grain game plan where they don't ever fight for a specific position. They don't ever go for the most strategic box fight. They're just picking one duo to possibly pressure, to maybe make them overbuild a bit and then following in their trail and then moving, you know, between trio to trio, last duo, live to last duo. It's a very interesting game plan.
And we go from an interesting game plan to a solid, true game plan from Cammy, kind of rocking the Cammy split. And we've been seeing how aggressive they can be on the rotations, ending up all the way north and south. And right now, they're just like a couple of good old boys riding around the truck right now. This trio definitely formed back in December 2020. They actually are the Amar Just Legends Cup champions. And shout out to all the watch parties throughout the entire world out there, having a great time vibing with us here in this beautiful FNCS day. There's nothing like an FNCS champion series and season, I always say. It always gets me giddy inside, as you see Matzo actually getting a knock on Toos and getting that confirmation. So Matzo and company are still doing really well coming off their victory royale here. And we're going to go to another team that we were just keeping an eye on. One of the underdog teams is Sky, Exexpert, and Meta in a box fight here in this strange part of Nia's steamy stacks here. And we've seen Pingo Wingo kind of make his rotation here along with Soldado, and they were able to be this ultimate third party, and they're able to capitalize. But now Pingo's in trouble here, and Sky is pushing in, trying to find that layer that Pingo is down in. Sky's sitting on the beams, and they're gonna do this without Expert. So it's Meta and Sky, and that the goal against is fortified. Nice edit here on the backside. Definitely their piece control here. Get a nice tag here, Sio, and this is what's going to be good here. But Pingo and Wingo are definitely in trouble here, considering they're down a man, and actually, well, still down a man considering you have no shield.
Yeah, it's kind of a specific situation where you're kind of protecting the one player and making, or just trying to buy time for him to get that shield off. You can hear the minis just being thrown on the ground for the moment. I can try to pot them, but the pressure staying on from Sky and Meta from two different sides. Getting some shots taken down. Two people now on white HP. The shield's not cracked from the duo that's making this 3v2 look like it's not a 3v2 at all. Bangu finally popped those shields, but at what cost? But then Skies are still jumping around a little bit, but the pressure's kind of up down a little.
I'm gonna say that was a battle between 28th place from Pingo's trio and 28th place with Meta's trio. So the same kind of, I always find that teams that usually fight each other on rotations usually end up being on the same part of the board for some reason, like because they're always tripping themselves up and getting to their rotation. They always kind of slow down their pull and push up their leaderboard as well. But then another team that's been kind of deciphering or by kind of making a lot of aggressive engagements throughout the entire map is Tayson, iDrop, and Mr. Savage. We've been seeing them in Weeping, we've been seeing in Stealthy, we've been seeing them, of course, where they drop in Salty Towers, but now they're going to take a very strong position here in the middle of the zone, it looks like, and now going to set up their bases and looking for the tags. And Tayson, Mr. Savage, and iDrop have been having a strange day in a sense where one person's down, one person's solo, but they're the kind of team that if they want to get in, they can. I mean, we did see Vidil and their trio kind of just pop off at the last moment and able to get into that top 10. Will Savage and that trio decide to get in here today? That will be the question going forward.
I mean, they did that last week. If you're talking about Vidil, on the fact of early aggression into a big pop-off clutch in general. From all the early aggression I'm looking at from Savage in general, iDrop as well, and Tayson, there just seems to be mistakes going on in every single fight. It's unfortunate. All their early plays not really working out in total. We'll have to rely on that end game, which is not always the most consistent for every single trio. There is one that can do it. It should be Savages. Past that, though, there's a lot of big contenders up for grabs today who've repeated from before or have been here last week, and some who haven't, like Fasteroki, ADN on your screen, like Nightsick, and Dex. All these guys, new contenders, all at the Coliseum as well. Fights breaking out down below, and there's a lot of people circling the stage as well outside on the desert. I don't think anything will break down here. They shouldn't be close enough to really get down in this box fight unless Vortex, Nightsick, and crew force this, which they have been the entire day. They always end up cornering one trio and then just hunting over and over and over again.
Yeah, and that's what got them on the second place on the board with 78 points. As you see, Sky Falcon and Robas, with their consistency and their nice one victory royale down there in the swamps, were able to push them up just a little bit higher. But you're seeing it's a very close fight. This week's a lot closer, as you're seeing Fasroki getting a nice knock right there and a confirmation. They're pushing in as much as possible. But Bobby, Helix, and Desi, they're currently sitting in 12th place. This engagement's huge for them because, again, the top 10 are in. And for a trio like Dexy and Bobby and Helix, it'd be huge, but it's just so claustrophobic and so crazy to fight here in the Colossal Coliseum. There's just so many angles they have to be mindful of. At the same time, there's sometimes a build can't be produced at a certain angle because of the natural terrain that kind of pops up here. So much of a box fighter's haven, and we already see Fasroki, and that just means they've been here for a long time. I mean, this fight has been going for the entire match. They haven't moved, and those are the kind of fights that I'm always wary of, because once you expend so many of your materials, before you know it, you have teams rotating right through you.
Yeah, it's an ultimate brawl, but definitely not their final destination, so to say, in that Coliseum. They will have to move as the zone is kind of further away. 4-0 Keziks as well, kind of a tale of duos in this game. There's a bunch who are just barely fragmented and alive, playing kind of their last legs, trying to find a way to either get their third member back into the party, but at the same time, not many opportunities for a reboot van up in the center of the map. I think the only one available is that Colossal Coliseum.
Yes, and that one is always sketchy to go to.
Yeah.
You always think that there's someone standing on top of that fortified fortress of the Colossal Coliseum. You all know, whoever plays pubs knows how dangerous a reboot can be, especially there. But we're seeing a very dangerous trio mooking up for it. Look at it. Clement is the only EU player to make every FNCS Grand Final. There's not a lot of people out there in the world that could hold on to that accolade, that stat, as Clement, Nakos, and Floki are sitting with 77 points, having a great, fantastic day, looking very strong. Most likely will qualify here in round 2, but we still have a couple more matches to go here, Shayo.
And the question too is, like, what does that actually mean for Clement? How does it change the way that trio plays? It means they have a lot of experience of every single meta that's been kind of delved down in every FNCS, and at the same time, a huge arsenal of options no matter what happens.
And I want to know is what meta will be formed here today. Already, for those of you that missed it, I mean, Tayson, was it Tayson or Thomas? Thomas went up to height in the previous match with the dub shotgun. The dub shotgun is an exotic weapon. Already there's rumblings on social media about the Big Chill, another exotic weapon that could have a factor into late game. Metas are always forming, and we're on the very infant stages of the FNCS. This is barely the second week. And for those of you who don't know, the exotics are only available through accruing a lot of gold currency, which you can get through character quests. So I'm so excited to see when will be the first kind of like, I guess, like flourish or the celebration of the exotic weapon being used. We've known the mythical weapons in the past and previous metas that Clement has been able to navigate at the same time. But what trio is going to pull out that ace up their sleeve and just show the world what they can do with those cool exotics?
Well, it's not only the trio that's using them, but how you react, right? Like, so far, you've had to react to that type of explosive meta, whether it's clingers or RPGs. If Benji's on height, that's the type of game you're playing. If it's a meta where, you know, low ground's actually reigning true, how do you survive against that? I believe we saw Floki at one point just trying to stay alive as the last member of the squad in game 2 or game 3. There's certain situations you always get put in. Right now as well in the mid game, a lot of snipes being, you know, driven down on the map. There's been times where we have no use for snipers in the game and no one's carrying them at all. And other times like this, where every single trio has one operating sniper that you have to take care of as well. There's many different combinations of games being played from the past and completely new ones, like, you know, playing against that snowball launcher, like playing against a shotgun that can send you straight towards the skies, and gas canisters as well, a remnant from last season. And now they're still rolling through. 7 Tor, Link and Stormy, right, looking to make that top 10 a little bit more secure, maybe a top 5 after this game.
And no doubt that gas canister play from 7 Tor was a Storm Sword type play. They're currently sitting below it, trying to get any kind of damage on passive Void and Bafo, but all they did was just stop the rotate. Now passive is going to take a little bit outer rotation here, avoid any of the beams from Laxus, who's sitting up there with a beautiful metal base. But look at 121 below and 12 people have to go down. So that is why you're seeing this box dive as Seventor is doing their best to hold on as much as possible, as Bafo's Trio's retaliation is angered and is fierce as much as possible. So now Seventor, Link, and Stormy are now on the back foot, backs against the wall, as Passive and Balford and Void are giving them receipts for their gas canister aggression. And that's the story that's happening there underneath the bridge. Up here, you see two other people on neighboring. You have Sky Falcon and Robass, who are currently sitting in first place coming into this match, sitting on top of right below of Jamsai, Kirachi, and Fury, who are sitting at 51 points. And like we mentioned, the threshold going into this match is 50 points. So they're on the border on that, and they're looking really good as Storm Surge is 412 above. Only 3 people have to go down, as you see in the feed that Flick picks up a confirmation on Cammy. Nice rotation here so far.
And then Seventor ends up going down in that fight we saw with Passive. So on low ground, we know that they have a little bit of that lead. Void also picks up Stormhead at the end. So Datu going down to Savage. So they'll get a refresh too, like we're watching Kirachi do as well. This side of things, next to the zone. The big thing as well for the leaders of our region right now, that being Skype, Falcon Lee, and Robab, as they've been here before last week. They came 20th overall and never really had a startup or any acceleration in their games. Right now, they're blasting at full speed. The question is, can they stay at that top spot? Will 91 be enough in general? Last time we were looking at 83 points to qualify everyone at the top 10. That was Refscott, Andretta, and Scram, who kind of rolled right in. How will things look now? Who will not be allowed to play? Benji Fishy's here once again. Shots onto you. 10 RPGs available this time. I think last time we started with like 6. So even more explosive action coming to you soon. And yeah, you can see, you know, this is really close as it's been in EUF and CS in general. And it's not just because of the stats. You can just feel it in the teams, the boxes you're seeing, the way endgame is being played out. It's tight, and one little mistake, one misedit could cost you a big boomstick in your box.
And now we're seeing Pink and Trio invested in height. We saw Siberia Jake's trio invested in height, and we saw the deadly RPG, like Shayo pointed out, 10 in the arsenal for Benji here. But it looks like this trio gets max pull, so now they have to make the decision. They do not want to bounce her over, because if they bounce her over, they're going to be able to heat a lot of beams. So that's the decision they're trying to make. Do we go now or do we wait? Look at so much tarps are down below. Bad Sniper trio set up a crazy tarp on that metal bridge, so that is an option for them. You looking like Kirachi Jam side, they just decide to go ahead and hoof it and take that bouncer across. No beams, but they get a nice little mid layer, and they're gonna have to work their way over. They're not done yet, but that rotation did call Jam side, as down goes Jam side. And now we're gonna take a look at the rest of the rotations happening from all the other trios here. You're seeing a great tarp that's being held by Void in that trio, as Anas, Flick, and Thomas are going to go ahead and bounce her right over. Now you're going to take a look at height and Fury, and actually they got up Jam side. What's happening at height? It is Sapphik, Siberia, Jake, and Iris again sitting and holding it tight.
Round 2 in game for these guys. They had height, I believe, in game number 2 the entire time. We're all the way up top, but in the 8th zone got taken down by Robabs, Falcon Lee, and Skype. So we'll see how they handle off things this time. Kiriachi, though, is going to be moving in with Jamside. Fury still alive. These guys are very aggressive for every single box, but don't want to drop straight in. Benji's found an Elam as well, so he'll start to move up the ranks. The question is, how is everything looking on low? Void is still stuck down there. This time of fight, he can't win 3v3. He goes down. Bad Sniper stays alive. Razumi has the beam so far onto the second layer right below them, but it's a full metal base that Tayson has the defense to play with. It's not going to be that much of a problem for him to defend against those shots. They move over towards low ground as well. Storm Surge is taking 2, I think, on the Nakos, which is actually really uncharacteristic for that trio. Bad Sniper going down below 2. Flick picked up that Elim. Now Kiriachi, a few stumbles on moving up towards Fury and Jamside, but they're still alive.
And the question is, who's going to be able to survive this colossal coliseum? This is going to be a very messy fight. 4-5 builds, a lot of places where you can't break into, Shia. It's going to get crazy.
Every single trio enters the ring, and there's definitely some ring leaders all the way up top. It's going to be so difficult to take over height. It is connected by just a few ramps, but they're just shooting down so many AR shots. It's difficult to look over and up. Castry, Felix down. Pinke, the last alive, surviving just barely by the skin of his teeth, and past that has to have another max rotation as well. Flick is popping off with an Nos on low ground though. Sapphik picks up Floki, so it's now just Anas and Thomas. We'll see exactly what happens there from that side. Flick is there too. At some point, Floki's down though, all the way down below.
And just like the gladiators of the past, it is going to go down at the Coliseum. So much action as you're seeing a Nos going down in the feed. You're seeing Heaty go down, Sursix go down, and Siberia, Jake, and company are looking strong, and they're looking mighty, and they're sending down their beams towards everybody else. This zone is going to favor height, but at the same time, so many catacombs are being created, and so many places for people to hide. That means that's going to lead for anyone that's down below to pick up some box fight elims, as zone now is pulling north. So can Safik and Siberia, Jake, Iris, yes, you're having height, but you're missing out on a lot of elims.
And the people who are taking those elims are your Dirty Docs God trio, and I hope they're still alive for the moment. No, Flick is now down, fully eliminated. Tayson and Savage go down 2. They were trying to survive. Kiriachi has 6 eliminations, Fury with 3, and Jamside with the 1. They're on double digits. They're looking for more, and with 3 trios left, they can definitely get it. Slowing down, Robots try for another high take, and they got denied by Razumi and Safik. They've learned from their mistakes. They're not going to be that easy to triumph this time, and now they have height control. It breaks down, but Kiriachi can barely breathe in the Colosseums down below. They look like catacombs. Finally dropping down, though. Jamside goes down, traded with Safik and Fury. Kiriachi, the last one alive, picks up almost every elim, but it's Jake who has the ultimate laugh all the way up on height. He never dropped down to the sands of the fight. He never had to get dirty. He just stayed alive up top, held the position. No heals needed either. Throw down some style. What a victory royale.
11 elims to go side with that victory royale, and able to stand on top of the Coliseum. It says, are you not entertained by the action? I know I am, Shayo.
I'm entertained too, but that was all the action. There's a ton to break down from there, so we'll have to call in Zeke 112K and resub to break it all down for us.
Sancho, I hate you so much. You stole my line, you jerk. That was gonna be my line. Listen, an end game Colossal Coliseum, okay? That was absolutely insane. I've never seen that before. And understanding, like, if, in case you don't know about the Colossal Coliseum, this is kind of like a POI that never changes. There's kind of these walls around it that you cannot break through. So understanding how you have to approach an end game like that. For Jake, he was like, look, teammates, you guys go do whatever. You guys go try to fight. I'm gonna chill up the high ground. And when it all comes down to it, as long as you distract those guys, I'll be out in the safe zone. It'll be fine. And it worked out.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of high ground in a zone like this. Like, we saw Kiriachi's POV there, and he kind of started to dig down. You saw him go down a layer, and this is obviously to avoid enemies that were on his player, right? There were people there. But the problem is, once you start to go down, you have to come straight back up because you can't build all the way through.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we were talking about the other game with Nate's team, right? You have to be aware of that as a comp player. When your endgame pulls towards that Coliseum, you need to understand how to traverse. You can see there Benji with a huge limb. He's putting in work with that RPG. I know he played NA DreamHack once with Zayt, but like he's really harnessing his inner Zayt with that RPG. Great stuff all around from him.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing that replay again of Siberia on high ground. You can see from that exact angle, just Kiriachi in zone, he's almost clueless because he's dropped down to those layers and you can't break through those walls. So if you're going through a Coliseum zone, you have to be very, very careful of the angles that you're going to take. But looking over to the leaderboard, we see Scout, Falcon, and Robabs still in first place here with 125 points, still keeping that really, really good lead over Safik, Siberia, and Irazimi, who are in second.
Yeah, they've been putting in some work. Look, we were talking about how it's, you know, a great day for France. It's clearly a great day for the CIS region. Like, they are putting on the show right now. I'm super impressed, though, with Benji, Amplify, Matt. So we talked about how, you know, this is huge for them, right? They have no series points before this weekend. This has to be a weekend where they make top 10, and they are doing just that. Like, I'm really excited to see what these guys can do moving into semis. As long as they can retain this, right? Of course, I don't want to speak too soon. Hopefully they can retain this moving forward.
Yeah, I hope so. And, you know, we've got Kensix, 4ZR, and Nate, another team we're seeing currently in 8th. And, you know, that last game, 18th with 1 elimination, kind of didn't go a little bit as they had planned. You know, first game and the last 2 just really haven't been as they've been hoping. But overall, they're still keeping within that top 10, and they're going to be consistent. And that last clip, we just saw Seti, Cammy, and Teak. Seti actually getting sniped at that point, unfortunately. You know, they'd set themselves up in such a good spot, basically where they dropped on the Cammy split on the east side of the map. On a hill, they're ready to get Storm Surge, but just over-peaked a little bit too much. And like, even though they got the res off on the Seti, that's so many heals wasted to try and get him resed up again.
Yeah, you can see then 14th Laxus, Bad Snap, and Trip. And I want to note on these guys, right? Obviously, last week they were actually in round 4, did not have a great day by any means. They were losing out on Salty consistently. Would have thought that coming into this week, right? They've changed up the drop spot. They're landing towards Hunters. Would they be able to patch up the mistakes? Still struggling a bit, but they are within that range, right? When you are sitting in that sort of like 11th to 15th range, you know, you still are way within a shot, right? We saw last week Badona, O'Reilly, and Reason come from about 20th place and then into the top 10, right? So, you know, they still do have a chance, and they need to make good use of these last couple games.
Yeah, but the one thing about Vidil, O'Reilly, and Rezon is that they are, like I said, one of the best fighters in the region, if not the best fighters in the region. And if someone's going to drop 15 eliminations and a victory royale, it's going to be them. And obviously, you know, are some of the other teams capable of this? Potentially, yes. But like, if I was going to put my money on one team to do it, they already did it last week.
This is a good point. Yeah, I mean, things to consider kind of heading into the next 2 games. If you're someone viewing, a lot of these trios, when you're looking at top 20 and down, they're over half. They have to make up half their points right now if they even want to try and claw their way into that top 10 spot. And this is just outside of everyone in top 10. That's like, okay, well, if I even get a handful of eliminations in place, top 10, now I'm starting to move farther up the bar, and you have to try and catch your way up to me. So with these 2 games left to go, gentlemen, what do we think needs to happen? Do we think these trios that are trying to qualify, do they just maybe say like, okay, maybe this week isn't for us, so let's try and refine some of these like strategies, let's use this as like a time to practice? Or do you think like, no, whatever fallback strategy they have, now is the time to step up and bring it to the table?
Depends on if you're a newly formed trio or not. If you're a newly formed trio, you need to step up. You need to try and get in that top 10, because 2 weeks, you know, next week could go completely wrong, and then you don't make it through on series points on consistency. If you're a team who already did well last week, maybe didn't even make it to round 4, but you did well, and then this week, you know, you have a chance at an 11th or a 12th, you know, around that zone. You don't need to make any crazy plays. Just play consistent. The series points will be enough, you know, as long as you manage to play next week well as well. So it really depends on how they're actually playing.
Yeah, I'm going to have to second it on there with Reese, right? You just got to really look at who is who in terms of, have you made it here before? Are you good on series points, right? If your team like Benji, Matzo, Amplify, you have to do what they're sort of doing, where you're trying to make sure you're securing yourself in that top 10.
Absolutely. We'll have to see if these trios can step up and try and claw their way into your top 10. But for now, we're going into game number 5 of the FNCS. Casters, back over to you.
Even a win for Sapphix, GBR-JAMIE, and Rezumi is not enough to take away the spot from Skype, Falconly, and Robab. Still in first place overall. They were denied high entry in that last end game as well. Now we'll see how this next game goes for everyone across the map. They're all making bounds and leaps to hit that top 10.
And what was so fantastic to see, Shy, was Kiriachi popping off. That is the Kiriachi that we all like to see out here. If you're a big fan of the EU region, you know Kiriachi was known to just to be that kind of aggressive player, kind of like what Reet is now before in the old school days. You know, Kiriachi is that kind of player that always aggressive, always looking for a fight. And the box fighting skills were able to ring true, racking up so many elims on the sands of the Colossal Coliseum. And even though they're coming into second place, it's so important to come into second place here. That's still a huge amount of placement points, and that performance was able to get them all the way up to third place coming into this match. But we already saw them dropless, and now they have a home here in Lazy Lake. But at the moment right now, they're just trying to survive without a teammate, and Kiriachi takes a good hit, and Frey now is down. So, hey, the momentum that they had, that they built in the previous match, maybe exasperated right now. So it's up to Jamsai and Kiriachi to hold the line as much as possible.
Definitely looks like they peaked off that last match, but at the same time, they can stay at that peak and even go further. At the same time, first time the 2 top 4 teams both are landing at the same POI overall. So we'll see exactly how it works out. Usually, I feel like you can get away with it at Misty overall and let it be, but now it's like, you know, it's across the map where you're looking at Lazy Lake. It gets a little bit more difficult. All those top points are coming from, though, not only off spawn but end game eliminations as well. I believe 52 of the 92 points that Kiriachi has overall are all elim points, so more than half at the moment are coming through from that aggression.
There's different ways to get into the dance. There's different ways to punch your ticket into the semifinals. Of course, we already talked about the top 10 is one of those ways, and other ways through consistency, through series points. We'll keep an eye on that, but as Reese kind of pointed out, there's no guarantees in tomorrow. There's no guarantees in the next week. So either you could get the job done now or roll the dice and see if you get it done next week. And there's 2 opportunities to do so here. And like we mentioned, the top 10, the threshold going into this match is 66 points. That's about 10 people are in the running, 10 trios in the running there, Shio. They're able to get in if they do have that pop-off game. And right now, Flicken and Nos are racking up and getting some elims on the board out there in Dirty Docks.
And Dirty Docks and they have a fight. And on that previous stat, it's obviously talking about the situation over at Misty Meadows being shared by Robabs, and at the same time as well, Clement and Nakaz. Both these guys are making endgame in very different ways as well.
Ooh.
I snipe from Jam side.
Nice.
They have one trio that's kind of operating on low ground most of the time. That's Nakaz, Clement, and Floki. And we've seen in that last FNCS big highlight plays with shockwaves from Floki. But in this one, it's just been some nice elims all the way around, some good control of space as well. And then on height, honestly, I would say the best retakers in the world, 100% in the region, Skype, Falconly, and Robabs, almost doing it twice off that last game. In the Coliseum too, that's very difficult. Here's that fight though we were talking about at Dirty Docks. It's been so strange, both back and forth. What looks like one of the strongest trios at this POI are going for it. It's absolute disrespect. One player left from the opposing trio. I think it was, yeah, Vanille 100%. And he gets pickaxe down. Is that not a message?
That's a huge message. And those are the conditions you're talking about. That's that fancy conditioner, you know. That's not that shampoo and conditioner all in one. That's that fancy condition to let you know that you're dealing with some high class trios, and that's what's going to happen going forward. So we're watching a lot of people, you know, uncontested, contested, being in the top 4. Once we get this down to the finals, folks, we're going to be talking about some intense drop spots, some intensity, because that's what we like to see here in the FNCS. But it's still intense here. There's a lot of people that are making their name, a lot of underdogs like the Helix trio here, like the Expert trio. There's so many people with that are coming into like getting into the Fortnite competitive scene in the FNCS stages, you know, understanding that they used to watch the Boogas in the world. They used to watch the Aquas and the all those lore names, right? And now they have an opportunity to do this themselves. So that's what's really cool when you're taking a look at the breakdown of all these people and their accolades, is that you have a lot of people like Jamside who've been around since World Cup, and then on the other side, people who are just getting into competitive here in Chapter 2. And that, to me, that's wild and that's awesome.
Big thing as well when it comes to like what we're seeing today happening at Dirty Docks, I would say it's a somewhat warranted but early celebration. Nos, Thomas, and Flick are not inside that top 10 just yet, and at the same time have, I believe, Mexi and Verox waiting for them in those semifinals. They do end up qualifying today, so gotta take things with a grain of salt. And yeah, game 4 was a big one. Coliseums usually have a lot of fights break down. There was 3 specific teams, I think, that had a majority of those eliminations. I believe it was team we had on height. 100% Crew actually was one of them. I'll have to take a look at exactly who was that last one as well.
And now we're going back to that situation, to another sticky situation that's happening here to play well. They're able to survive again. I mean, a lot of battles happen in the retail row, and even though they get that victory right there, it's like you mentioned, with a grain of salt. We've been seeing that no production has been coming from that rotation, but now Jamside able to bring back from the Grave, Fury, and Kirachi, now sitting as a full trio, looking pretty good on HP. Not looking good at builds here, but it's going to come down to your communication, come down to your box fighting skills as a trio. And looking out in the distance, there's another trio, a Bad Sniper and company, looking for an opportunity as Laxus here, looking for a shot, looking for a moment to capitalize on this. We already saw in this fight, Pingo being that third party, not capitalizing on that. The reverse card could happen, but we're going to go back inside to the catacombs in this box fight. Jamside getting a nice little tag, and a big old tag and a knock right there on Ghosta. Eating a big snipe. Big hit from Jamside. 2 E-limbs. This old school player is here to fight and let the new school say, class is still in. I'm about to turn you into some lobby points, brother.
Easy clap for him. 98 points as well. So furthering their lead in the top 10, climbing for 3rd and hopefully 1st place soon. We'll see Bad Sniper not staying behind and going for those third-party types of tags. He's going to get up close and personal with Jamside. Fury has to shield up here fast as well. It's gonna be difficult for them to break into this box. I'm not sure what the game plan is totally for Bad Sniper. Not sure why they need this entirely. Might just be a desperate pull for Surge. They still have time to go for tags. Astro, meanwhile, going down across the map to Night 6 trio. Both ADN and Hardfinder also wiped from this game.
I'm just taking a look at the. I was trying to answer your question. I'm taking a look at the board. I mean, they're just outside the top 10, 14, and they misstep right here in that engagement. That's going to be bad news. You already talked about Jamside already sitting in the top 10 so well in advance. So I think that's just, you might be right. Surge might be that play right there, but now we're going to another skirmish here outside the storm. It's Benji, Matzo, and Amplify making the rotation away from Hydro 16, going into Slurpy Swamp, and we've been seeing the highlight and the showcase plays from Benji with that RPG. Well, look at this battle between some underdogs of Noobs Milo, who've been having so many skirmishes out in the blue bridge from ADN and Hardfine. And they're saying enough is enough. They were able to hold down that bridge, but as now we see the rotate is going to have to go through with the vehicle from Benji, Matzo, and Upify. And 81 points, a trio trying to get in through a top 10 route, understanding that all their points got resetted because they switched up with trio. So a new rule implemented here in the FNCS trio, so it's so fascinating to see that. But
I was looking out to see if the harpoon was still near Benji's inventory.
Of course,
it's still there, so the combo stays alive.
All right, now we're seeing some more of the new school Milo, Cisse, and Noobs. 37 points already. The threshold is around the 50, so they got a lot of work to do, but it is possible they could go ahead and get that pop off. Now we got some box fighting here, looking and poking and prodding, the footsie game, so to speak, happening right now, and a big tag that's happening in the backside. It's going to cause a little bit of retreat right there, back to the high ground. Nothing like a good old-fashioned pistol play. That thing beams really true. Get a couple of nice hits, but you got to be careful fighting around the reboot van. There's a little no man's land area, and now Noobs and Chris goes down to Noobs with a big, powerful, epic charged shotgun, puts a big blast. And now we just go from like two different sides of the coin, right? We got one team that's fighting, then we got another team that's vibing out, taking advantage of all the slurp barrels out there in Slurp Factory.
Yeah, the big thing about all these trios going down, especially that one right there, High Chris, Vortex, and Nightsec, a top 10 trio right now, 6th place overall, so they're frozen in time. 78 points. We saw 83 being the qual last week. They could not be guaranteed. It could be a flub again if next game does not go well, and this gives a chance for other trios to move up and catch up. Once again, I'll say it, it's top 10 that everyone should be focusing on for the moment. Every fight looks cool. Yes, you might see some crazy 1v3s, but if it's not furthering these guys to get towards that big spot, being, you know, close to qual range, and they're a new trio, it doesn't mean much.
I gotta say though, Shai, what a great hold from Jamside and Freer and Kirachi. They had multiple trios contesting them, and they were able to hold on. It just shows you how powerful Lazy Lake can be if you could retreat back into the catacombs of your old builds and basement as well in some of these natural terrains. But flying and styling is Benji, Matzo, and Amplify, looking for another trio to let them know they have that RPG. In fact, the entire lobby knows this trio would have the RPG. And we talked about at the earliest onset of the show that they like to play for height, and that kind of unfolded right nicely for us right there. They were able to get a victory royale. They were able to pull that half in and half out in that zone, and they zone controlled it, like you said, Shio, so well, and get that victory royale.
I feel like they should get like a label on their car or something to let everyone know that like this trio has an RPG,
like a Rocket League sticker or something,
like a baby on board type thing.
RPG on board.
Yeah. Oh. You gotta balance it out, man. It's just so hard to deal with, you know.
Yeah.
From everyone around, you see, especially when Benji combines it with the harpoon. The things you're doing, that he's doing, should not be legal. Okay, you can't grab the minis close to him though. Never mind. I guess there is some type of balance. It only works in the moments where it truly matters.
There's always balance in the force. But what's so fascinating is this is a new trio for Benji. He rarely plays with Amplify and Matzo. You always see him with Mongo, Mitro, and Savage, you know, and Lechi. Those are literally, if you look at his history of teammates, literally that's it. Matzo and Amplify gelling really well with Benji is so fascinating to watch this turn and developing story, but we're going to see the new trio going up against the old and true trio of Tayson and company. So this is a nice battle between the juggernauts of I Drop Tayson, and they just kind of exchange a couple of barbs just to let you know, like, hey, chill, we're cool. We're cool. We don't need to do this right now. We don't want to scuff everything for the moment here, but hey, Amplify and Matzo are in a strange precarious situation, knowing that they're out on the water and maybe in a tough spot considering Zone is continuing to pull further away from them.
Everyone's kind of got the same memo. It's like they're sharing an email of where to move and where to go. Just keep pushing towards the bridge, get towards that zone. I think the issue right now is that trio above Benji's might be slightly nervous, maybe too many people around, so boxing up for a little bit of safety to make sure they're on the right path. But you guys just keep moving over. It's Lazy Lake that might have different game plans back and forth, especially with the types of trios we're looking at so far. Right now on the top side, the top 5, you can see on the left side of your screen, we don't see many of them in front of us except for Kiriachi. The way they're playing isn't the most orthodox either. They're pushing box after box. I mean, it's orthodox for their game plan. All they know is push, and aggress. I guess Benji's also kind of playing off that vibe as well. Now just 2 rockets to play with coming into this end game. That's going to be a little bit trickier. Definitely a power kind of play to make, but won't have that many opportunities to really push that button.
You don't get a lot of RPG rockets out the outset. You literally have to earn your way to that. I mean, there's somebody out there that's feeding the RPG monster, that's feeding this RPG baby, right? All of a sudden we see them in game. They got about 5 to 10 RPGs, and that baby's out there like the 50-foot baby, destroying all builds left and right like Gojira. I digress. Matzo, Amplify, Benji are now trying to be the new titans of the trio world in the EU region, trying to take down other huge titans, and this is important. They have to get in the top 10. Who knows if the chemistry could come apart. Again, this is only just a week old, literally a week old. 1 Cash Cup, I believe, and then the Cypher PK Cup is the only experience at a competitive level, I would say, this trio has. So they're gonna go ahead and keep pushing it up as much as possible. But this is Shayo, we're gonna have ourselves a little mountain ending here, and we all know what happens when the mountains are in play and in game as we're getting closer to zone 4.
Yeah, more snipes, more explosions, and definitely rotations of the highest degree you're gonna see on Europe. Thomas here as well, but no Nos to kind of roll. What? How? Did he hit 6 shots in a row from that range?
He's nasty.
Victim to the most disgusting aim I've seen. Wow. It's disgusting in the best way. That was crazy.
Hey, he's just letting you know it's not all about the snipes, man. He could also do it with the AR. Thomas HD with the golden shots. And now we're taking a look at who's gonna hold on to the tippy top here to be the ultimate Grinch sitting up on the high ground. Right now it's Siberia, staying true to his Russian roots, understanding the cold and the snow and the terrain. Have a great overview look and vibing.
He's gonna pull right
out.
Watch. Yeah, pulled right. And now every trio on the left side
is in trouble.
It is in trouble. And maybe I know where zones go. Don't ask me about it again. You know, let's not dive too deep into it. But these guys are in trouble. It's pulled to max and it's going to pull max again. I guarantee even goes even more right after this. We're going down not only into a valley, but these guys will have to expend mats to get up a mountain and then go back down a mountain again.
Well, I have to say at the same time, you know, a lot of these trios have been throughout the entire day, have been playing zone 2 on the edge. We've been having these starting lines, all these crazy congestion zones, and we're just showing the importance of having dead center, being dead center as much as possible. And you could see that they did pull. All they have to do is just move a little bit over, but they're having no doubt the highest point control by only 1 player though. And now you're seeing another team down below making this crazy rotation. They might be understanding where they're going this Shayo. You may be onto something.
There's 2 options right now. You can either be a goat or a rat. So you can kind of climb this mountain on your hoofs, right? Like goats do at the same time. You could also be Benji Fishy or goat. Haha. Okay. Nice joke. But past that as well, you could be a rat on the low ground and really expend time overall, kind of burrowing beneath everyone's builds above you, electing not to go past this mountain. I feel like we might see a trio or 2 already do that. We see one all the way on the backside, not touching the mountain near the purple zone there, those 2 white arrows. But in doing that, you'll kind of be put to the test of time. Might fall pit to a trap as well from any trio up above looking down below. It's a risky strat to make, but that's how most rat strats go.
And what's definitely risky is the trap that may unfold in front of them with Storm Surge. Not so bad. 5 have to go down, but that just shows you that they're literally close on that line, and they have to continue to work for it. So they have to find as many tags as possible going forward and doing this dead side rotation, as they do find some tags here. Now they're 255 above. So that is a very nice work there from Matzo, Amplify, and Benji. And this is a metaphor on them right now, going up their leaderboard. They're going up the mountain. They were in 15th place essentially on the back part of it. Now they're sitting in 5th place going into this match. So looking really strong and unbelievable, able to get around this kind of fight that Ye and Jams are kind of making their rotation, but they have to slow down. Don't forget, Siberia's sitting on the top.
Now free space as well to claim overall on the right side. No one's there. 1 second, and to the right we go again.
Okay,
and it's way past all the congestion on the top left too. That's going to be so difficult. Benji's also kind of from the outside in looking, you know, they're kind of cool at top 5, but if they do slip up in this game, once again, last week's score was 83 total points. They could be on the brink in game number 6. We'll see how things go so far, but right now everyone's gonna have to emigrate to this zone, leave their home behind. They start to, bouncers being thrown over and over again. No one here so far is looking to beam those bouncers just yet. Siberia is not in position. Finally, he is now. Could go for some shots, but you got to remember, snipers are still in play. If he overpeaks to go for some beams, it could spell disaster.
You're talking about everyone trying to find that Fortnite dreams and chase that height victory royale. This is what they're doing right now, Shio.
And the big thing too is, you know, like Siberia and Benji right on top of each other back to back. These guys are in the top 10. The majority of trios moving in right now are trying to qualify. They're kind of being gated behind all these shooters who are already based up inside the top 10. They're making sure no one takes away their spots for qualification. Nakolis is right there up top. He gets beamed hard. Metal builds to relieve the pressure, but will it stop the pain?
And we're seeing Zappy and Patrick and Twos, who had a very great start to the day, are slowly slowing down as much as possible. Now they're coming into this match literally on the cusp there on that top 10. So they're just above that thresh that we're going into. But as you mentioned, people are accruing points in Sapphic. Again, what a great, phenomenal day for them. For if their game plan has been getting hype, they have been executing it very well, only having 1 slip up. So Siberia and Sapphic, and they have to do it as a duo. So they lost Irez, so that's going to be a little bit more difficult for them. And considering that you mentioned Benji's sitting right below them, right below with that RPG, only has 2 RPGs, as Mr. Savage does confirm gray in the feed. So as it goes back up, so this is going to be another huge advantage for Siberian and Sapphic, understanding they could go right back up the builds, but at the same time, Shayo, I'm concerned being down a man.
Yeah, and while these guys have height on a mountain and have to do it with a duo, it's a tough kind of road. You have to look at the mountain that every other trio is trying to climb right now.
Oh, it got
getting into that top 10. They're up top. Savage down low has picked up another Elim. We know the 6th place of Icarus, Vortex, and Nightsick is frozen in time as well at 78 points. Opportunity for Savage to break into that top 10 and steal some spots with Taste and an eye drop. We'll see how that goes. Benji now still 2 rockets. He's been patient so far. Pretty soon he's gonna start letting loose. These guys are moving straight all the way up high, and he's broken the connection. There's nothing to kind of stay down on. The harpoon there too. Siberia Jake actually stays alive up top and has a connection to the mountain. Still, the aggression pushes forward. Lax pocket rocket available for Benji. Hasn't found the time to reload yet. And take it all the way up. They have height, but if you so much to get up here, how long can they actually hold on?
At the same time, that harpoon almost cost Siberia's life. He literally got harpoon back to build.
Oh my goodness, right now the zone is absolutely vertical. Everyone has to move up this mountain. Siberia does find 1 pick on your bottom right. Benji is all the way up top, but there's actually bodies climbing over bodies right now. There's different trios sharing boxes, Sancho. This is really messy.
Yeah, and Siberia right now is gonna have to, down goes Siberia, but looking at the top right, when going to get a closer look, it is Benji, Matzo, Amplify, who've been doing some very great rotations. Dead side, now they're holding on, throwing a big time RPG, knocking down the shield, but can that RPG ultimately cost Benji a lot of position? Now Benji's gonna have to pay the price of that RPG. He's gonna go through some builds. Vel gets hit in the back, a couple of tags, gets knocked by that. Actually, Benji didn't get that knock. It was actually Trader 7 that gets credited that. And Vettel gets the knock on Trader, and that was actually Benji that does confirm and get that. So Benji now reunited with this trio of Matzo and Amplify, and now they're going to send down the beams. Nakos goes down. Floki, no doubt, is about to go down the storm. Zappy has an opportunity to hold on, but Matzo and Amplify are now going into the ultimate aggression as Benji is now being out in front. And you mentioned the vertical zone is taking so much out of everybody in the lobby, but you got to be careful. These guys are high up, but they do have bouncers that things can kind of sketch. One rocket in the RPG. There's only about 2 trios left. It's a 3v2 situation, and the moments is just a matter of moments here before the second victory royale that's about to happen. And Link is holding on as much as possible. Stormy right now is down to it, and this is gonna be huge. At least, I don't know, I mean, make something happen, maybe make someone think about it, but no, it's all gonna be wrapped up with a nice bow for Benji, Matzo, Amplify. There is no question here, Shio. There's going to be a GG very shortly. There it is, GG. One more because we still have 1 match to go, but that's 7 elims and a masterclass of executions of rotating on that mountain zone.
Hey, season 7 called, and Polar Peak says hello once again, basically, in the way that last zone played out. Cool kind of plays from Benji, you know, dipping back and forth in the storm, getting a nice flank on Vettel as well, but there was tons of elims that went down on the low ground, and a lot actually that led to that final zone being played.
Absolutely, and they're going to continue their rise on the leaderboard, and we will take a look at the rest of the leaderboard right here. Let's go ahead and get it to the analyst desk of Zeke, Reese, and Levin.
Thank you guys so much. You're killing it right now, gentlemen. Grandfather Mountain, he always claims his toll. And what I kind of liked about this game was we were kind of talking in the back, and Siberia goes for the high ground. And this is kind of the first game where Benji's like, look, I've had enough of this. Okay, Siberia, you're a problem. I've got an RPG. It's time to shut it all down.
What I was going to say is, you know, the players that positioned themselves well in this zone were the ones who really came out on top, and that was Benji's team. You know, we saw that that's such a vertical zone, and all the teams who dropped all the way down to the bottom, huge mistake. And, you know, Benji's team who kept that good level high ground, they weren't height, but they were second height. So as soon as it pulled back up, they used the RPG on Siberia to take that high ground. And in that first moving zone, we saw there was 43 people alive when it started moving, and by the time it closed, there was 22. So 21 players were eliminated on that zone, and that's a lot of people who dropped all the way down and thought, I'll be okay, rather than just maintaining a high layer and a high layer ground, so that in case it pulls back up, just bad prep from a lot of teams.
Yeah, when Reese refers to bad positioning, right, for the people who might not understand what goes into that thought process, right, like when you're taking position, you should be thinking about options, right? Like all those teams that are dropping pretty low down that hill, you need to be thinking, you know, what are options here? If it pulls back, how do we get back up the zone, you know? And for a lot of those teams, it didn't pan out like that because, you know, they go down. So I think great stuff all around for Benji there. Like you said, right, prioritizing somewhat staying elevated so that in case it did pull back, they could use the RPG to take height, and they did. Great stuff to the off-spawn fights though. Lazy Lake's been interesting today. It was even more interesting with Kiriachi's team here.
Yeah, the Lazy Lakes fights have been interesting between Frey's team and Kiriachi's team. You know, we saw it being uncontested at the start, and then over and over again, you know, we've just seen Kiriachi's team kind of come out on top there. And, you know, it's interesting because they decided, you know, we switched up last minute swap, and they're still performing really, really well in this drop.
Yeah, and you know, I love to mention it all the time, whether I'm on stream, whether I'm on the broadcast, wherever I am. Stinkers, howlers, mistakes all around. Thomas HD, they're making Dirty Docs just look like, you know, their stomping ground. They are on a tear at Dirty, and you know, we love the memes, we love the rivalry, but those guys are really putting on a show there for us. So good stuff. We saw them last game, right? They get their limbs and they start dancing, right? So clearly a bit of banter in there.
Bantering is an interesting word for it. They are trash talking. They're putting their name, their flag on that POI right now. But looking over to the leaderboards, obviously we have Sky, Falcon, and Robab still in that first place slot with that 1 victory royale. Really some incredible consistency from them. Overall, their average placement is 4.8. So really, really impressive.
Yeah, with those guys, right, I was concerned, right? Because when Floki and their team, you know, sort of qualified, I was thinking, oh boy, these guys are going to Misty now. Like, you know, Sky, they gave you the first week to qualify through using Misty. You know, you need to do something. But these guys have stepped up to the plate and they've been so impressive. Taking a look here at 11th to 15th, though. Seti, Cammy, Teak, these guys are so good, but they need to start to push their way in just on 11th. Kezix, Forzia, and Nate. Realistically, these guys probably will be fine because of series points, right? But, you know, they sort of started to fall off a bit, right? Starting off high, but sort of, you know, dropping off here. So can they get back in form and really make the most of this final game?
Yeah, and one of the things about Seti, Cammy, and Teak, if you notice, they only have 11 eliminations. And, you know, that's kind of a standard staple of this team, is that they are just consistent top placers in terms of placement, but you know, they're not the huge fraggers that we might see in some of the other trios. You know, like for example, Kezik's Nate and Fortnite, you know, they started that off with, I think it was a 15 elimination game, a 14 elimination game in game 2. And that's kind of what Seti, Kemi, and Teak, I feel like they need to pull off at this point. You know, they're coming across players who are incredibly consistent as well. And, you know, it's just not managing to get as many eliminations. You know, they're going to need to get a few more just to keep them up in that leaderboard, especially in this next game since they're on the boundary. And then in particular, if they want to place in that top space when it comes to the semifinals and the finals, they're going to need to be able to get more eliminations than this.
Yeah, the thing is though, Reese, is that, you know, you pointed out that is uncharacteristic of them. These guys are a top trio. Don't get us wrong, right?
Yeah.
Not being able to get a mass amount of elims doesn't mean you're not necessarily a good trio. There are parts of the game that they pay attention to detail to that, you know, they're pretty much unmatched in all of Europe. But like you said, with this point format, with the way these games are playing out, with how taxing it can be to not actually get a top 3, these guys can consistently get you 4th place, 5th place, 6th place, which, you know, maybe in other poor point formats is perfect, right? You can see them way high up the standings. But in this, you know, where they're not getting that top 3, eliminations would help them so much. And it is going to be a struggle for them, but I do have that faith because they are, once again, one of the top trios in the region.
100%. It's always a balancing act, right? Balancing eliminations, placement, and then trying to be consistent in doing so. It's extremely difficult, especially when you're looking around the room and there's all these other fantastic trios that are trying to do the same thing, right? Especially when we're looking at these hotspots, these massive POIs that they want to alpha up and claim as their own. There's so much that goes into this. So we hope you guys have been enjoying the action, the breakdown. And this is it, the final game here in EU in qualifier number 2. So as you're watching, watch that elimination feed in the top left. People, as they're being eliminated, that's it. They get one last shot. Who will make it in the top 10? We will find out after this. For now, we're going into the final game. Sancho, Shy Wager. Let's do it one last time.
Top 10 is exactly what everyone is looking for in this next game. We'll see exactly how it breaks down. Me and Sancho up in the business for EU in game number 6. Let's roll it straight through.
Oh man, I am so excited. This is the last frame, everybody. This is match 6 of the qualifiers 2. This is going to be a strong opportunity for so many of the trios to get in. We already talked about the great rise of Amplify, Matzo, and Benji Fishy. With that victory royale coming into the 2nd place, they've been doing it all with the stronghold of height and the great masterclass in rotations to the dead side. But we cannot forget of another top 3 of Kirachi, Jamsai, and Fury, who've been all doing elims. So like I mentioned, there's different routes to getting into that top 10 as much as possible. So all you got to do is just hold on tight. And wow, I'm just so surprised that Benji, Matzo, and Amplify were able to get here really quickly with only 1 week to prepare. And that's not good so far. The little bit of tags, a little bit of love taps. They're right there, 123 points so far for Benji, but now sitting with 48 HP.
Not unfortunate from their side, but they just have a slight speed bump rolling in still. They're on that top side, bumped up to 2nd, as we said before. No one's been able to touch Sky, Falcon Lee, and Robab, so just so consistent game after game after game. The lowest placement so far is the 7th that they've repeated twice on games 3 and that last game we just saw, always having an elim or 2 rolling with the game as well. They've got a set game plan. Will be scary to watch them overall in the semifinals. For Thomas, though, it's been a little bit back and forth over at Dirty, and this time they're going for a guarantee of having a game number 6. 66 points right now. They are almost 20 points behind qualifying. Snags, Heatsy, and Steelix have that spot right now on that 10th place mark. Last week they were 33rd, or almost 33rd, almost in last. They only had about 14 points to their name. Now they're close to qualifying. How things change?
I know, and I was just want to point out, like, you're taking a look at the leaderboard. There's, I would say, from 10 to 17, there is enough in striking distance. Right now, the threshold is 82 points. And sometimes it's hard to keep up with the elim feat, but just keep an eye on this threshold of 82, so to speak. And Teak, Kemi, and Seti, who, like we mentioned, they started off the day really well. They were making really strong rotations, but I think this shows you kind of what happens when you have the scavenger routes, the inconsistency of it sometimes. Sometimes you do really well, you're looking really good, you're making your rotations early, and other times you're looking for Storm Surge, and you're looking for tags as much as possible. And GBRJAMIE and Seti, they did really well that one match we saw them where they had 0 elims, and to start off the day, they got all the way up to double-digit elims and a really high place finish. So Seti and company looking for the opportunity, and so is Savage, Tayson, and iDrop as well to get in.
Yeah, everyone playing a slightly safer. We're tuning in earlier to the game as well, that we have the last 2, so we get to see these guys prep up and get ready for the end game. Everyone just has to make the right decisions when it starts to hit zone 4, zone 5. Up until then, I feel like everyone on EU has been doing the right things. We've seen some play well storm fights. Not sure what that's all about, but I feel like in game 6 that stops. Hopefully. I hope.
Yes. Wait, is Savage and iDrop and Tayson, are they just deciding that zone may come to them? Like, do they have it in their idea that this might be it? I mean, we've been seeing them throughout the entire day of, you know, going all the way north, going all the way south, you know, making these crazy rotations, these crazy pushes, but most likely we'll see. I think that if they get in here, the currency in 8th place.
Oh, okay, hold on.
What do you got?
Do they have a message for us? Okay,
it might be
spelling something out. Never mind.
We'll soon. We'll see. I mean, I know that new contest that's always happened on social media with Fortnite. You know, I forget what they call it officially, but you could send them your builds or nice, really cool photo opportunities. That maybe they're going for one of those.
Possibly. Here though, it's a lot more serious for Snag, DC, and Steelix. On the cusp, but actually just in 10th place once again. This fight earlier on is going to be that much more dangerous up against Dracos. We'll see how it goes. So far, it's been aggressive every single time. But Snagged, Heatsy, and Steelix have had the opportunity to be slightly elevated. Play around the Z-axis, this time trapped in the basement, but they have shots on both sides back and forth. Dropping back down now. There is a second entrance or exit for these guys to move towards. But I feel like MXR, Gray, and Shakos will be there fast.
I mean, right there, they're 32nd. So most likely they're with 14 points. They're gonna need the mega
30 seconds.
Yeah, they're 32nd.
It's like a ghost of their past then, basically fighting them.
Yep.
They were 32nd coming into week 1, so that's actually
it's a metaphor.
So sick. Yeah,
the big 3-2 is haunting them down and breathing on their neck, keeping them down into the basement. And they're gonna have to rise out of the darkness and get into the light. I mean, I could get poetic with this, Shiloh. If that's how far you want to go.
I mean, poetry left and right. I feel like it's more so war right now for these guys. And it's like the rush at dawn, both sides kind of waiting for the fight to start. Meanwhile, the winners so far of the day, Skype, Falcon Lee, and Robabs, just looking good overall. Top 10 each game. Once again, 7th was that lucky number that they've dropped down to, but is that even dropping down that far? 7th place? Like, it's still phenomenal.
I mean, average elims 5.4, average placement, like you mentioned, about at least 5th. And they've been sharing that Misty Meadows drop, and this is the first time in the EU region that a top 4 team was going like into the middle part of this day, was coming out of Misty Meadows, just showing you how strong of a POI it can be. And at the same time, how strong it can be is now you see Thomas HG going down in the feed, so it may throw a wrench to their run to the top 10, currently sitting in just on the outside of that. But hey, I think Thomas HG and Tria, no matter what, they're getting in. But our message is being dropped everywhere. Am I being? Is this a prank?
No, you're not being pranked. It's very real. But I can't, as real as it is, I can't believe what's going on at Stealthy. These guys, I think in 30 are trying to send a message.
Right.
That hey, you know, you mess with us the entire the tournament. We've gone back and forth, but we're not leaving this time. You will literally have to claw your way out of the stronghold, which will be very difficult. Once again, the format we're looking at 30 points overall for the win, 2 per elim. So if you get 15, you're basically emulating a win's worth of points. If I look all the way down the leaderboard right now, going straight to maybe even 32nd place themselves, they have 4 teams. If they have some next generation pop-off game and end up winning, like Vidil did last week.
Yeah.
Could be 100% of a chance of getting 10th the whole way through, especially if Snagged, Heatsy, and Steelix go down here. Especially if any of these top 10s get frozen in time.
Yeah, you talk. I mean, we talk about those pop off. They need to pop off in 4K, man. That's the kind of pop off you need. But right now, Vortex and High Chris, Nightsack are doing really well. They had a great match where they came in second place and had 11 elims, and that was kept them so far in that running. They had a little bit of 5th place and 7 elims, and then they popped off with a 2nd place 11 elims. So really strong middle game right now, but they've been so far finishing in the 20s. So that so far has been hurting their kind of concrete, no doubt they're in type vibe, considering that they're only coming into this match at 84 points. But the story still continues, and I think the story that will kind of everyone will leave for social media is Amplify, Matzo, and Benji really getting in. And it's not just because of that RPG. I mean, that RPG has helped them in at least one of their games, I would say. But the other game was just getting height so early with those mountains. And this is not an easy fight. This stalemate, it's here for a reason. I'm gonna tell you. Here. I mean, Shaco's Gray and EMXR, they've been around for a very long time. I mean, EMXR comes all the way back from the World Cup days, and then you're taking a look at someone who's Gray, the same thing. Him and Shaco's playing the World Cup duo qualifiers.
No way.
Hey, this is what it takes, brother. It's not gonna be easy. You're not gonna be handed anything. You're gonna have to.
It's not even about handing things. Well, I don't understand what Steelix, Snagged, and Heatsy are going to do from this position. It's not the fact that their exit might be being camped out right now inside the storm.
Right.
How are they going to escape here? Because on this side, as soon as they mine out that pyramid, they're gonna have to immediately try to break one of those walls. This very long distance beam that'll come through from MXR and Shaco's.
This is
and Gray's just watching the other side. They don't have the white heels either to just live it the whole way.
Dude, it's like
we're tuning into it. Then we're gonna stick with it. To the end.
We're literally watching like their hopes of qualifying through the top 10, most likely through consistency, they most likely in. But I know they want to, these Italians want to be able to say they got in through their own play. But literally the Frenchmen who are sitting on top are pressing them out, and this is what it's gonna happen right here. No points will be awarded to Shay in this trio, because I don't think any tags happen. And look, Shay pops a flopper and he's looking good. And the Heatsy, Seals, and Snag are now, like you mentioned, frozen in time, frozen forever on this leaderboard on this day. And that's it. Now it's going to be up to the rest. They don't qual. It's just a moment like that, because no doubt someone else is going to show up. We all know how it's like being on those thresholds. The rest of the field will rise. But now on the top of the board, it's a battle. We got Robats, Falcony, and Matzo, and Amplify, and Benji. This is a fight between Titans of right now.
This is a show match of first and second place. That fight doesn't matter too much in the grand scheme of things for the top 10. But the situation around Nightstick is the one that we should be focusing on. That's the most important situation around Savage as well, who's picking up Soldatu, but at a cost. He gets traded and finished by Pengu Wingu across the map. That's a trio in, close to not qualifying as well. 8th place overall with 87 points. There's people at 77, 70, like Kazakhs, like that Playwell trio, who are looking to jump up and jump right in. That show match over at the dam as well, still going down. 3v1 now. The first place team gets stopped in their tracks.
Wow.
And a chance for Amplify, Matzo, and Benji to take that first spot away in the day as well.
Benji literally wiped out 3 of the top players of the day, Shayo.
Yeah, I mean, there's only room for one train on the track, right? And so the Train H duo with Benji is the one that gets to choo-choo away. Skype Falconly will have to, put that little cart on reserve. Robabs will not be able to conduct one more end game, unfortunately. Past that as well, Nate Grizzy, or Nate Castix, and 4ZR. I wonder how many times people slip up in that fashion.
It happens. At the same time, we just got to get, it's easy to fall off the track. You got to get back on the track as we continue down the metaphor road of trains. But the train doesn't stop here for the FNCS. It will continue. We still have NA East and NA West. For all those people that are watching at home who are just tuning in, who are just waking up here in the States, it's past 1 p.m. almost here on the West Coast, so you better be awake and you better be vibing, because we still have a lot of action here to bring you. NA East is going to NA West, like I mentioned. It's going to be so awesome to see the rest of the casters bring in the noise, and no doubt the noise is not over yet here we're almost done here in the EU. This is the final match, Shayo.
Yeah, lots of noise, friction, and tension between trios. We just saw ForZR, Nate, and Kha'Zix. And then after that, immediately Seti, Cammy, and Teak, both 11th and 12th place. Remember, they have to hit top 10. These guys both 81 and then 77 points each. They're very close.
And what's interesting as well is, where's ADN, right? ADN was part of this Matzo Amplified trio before going in for the longest time. ADN, Hardfun, and Astro going into this match are in 19th place with 30 points. For a moment, they were sitting back-to-back in 14th and 15th place. But then Benji and Matzo and Amplify were just able to push their way up their leaderboard, and stuck is ADN and Hardfun and Astro, who have been so far having Pleasant Park all by themselves and been taking some rotations out to the blue, in that blue bridge, as we did see Astro did pick up Pingo Wingo there in the feet.
Still, I feel like, you know, the stories of ADN, Hardfun, and Astro, you know, Fastaroki, Kali, and Dietrix, these are all miracle runs we're kind of waiting to watch happen. The real stuff to focus on are people like Nate, ForZR, and Kha'Zix. The three trios who are all 11th, 12th, and 13th respectively is what we'll mention in just a sec as this fight breaks out to keep their dreams alive. And Nate is pushing up with Kha'Zix and ForZR right on the Hydro. These guys not close at all for the moment. 24th place, 23 points in total for Harry, Tempify, and Hydro.
I just have to say, man, this is big for ForZR and Nate. These are my pick, by the way, my prediction. And the reason why I thought they did so well, because in the previous FNCS trios, they were just running all over everybody coming out of Sweaty Sands. They were getting first place a lot of the qualifiers, but they just hit a huge roadblock and they just fell short completely of the FNCS trios last season. I think they're looking for redemption, and it does start here today if they get into that top 10. We know what they can. This French trio always does well on the EU side of things. So Harry has now been confirmed and converted into lobby points and may be a part of that elim feed in their historic run into the FNCS trios for the championship going forward. But they still have a lot of work to do. And yes, that they pop up here, but it has been in the history that they do slow down and they do hit roadblocks going forward in the grand final.
91 points for these guys now, 7 eliminations.
Looking really solid, looking really good. And it's all about teamwork right now, and they're getting further and further away from the top 10. Nice work, and now they're gonna taxi their way up. Like a nice little dead side rotation here, as we all know, the north side, and they're just picking up a lot of people who are just struggling to survive for a moment here. Templify out here and nice little tags in the moment, but that's what you gotta do. Get them into that, get them converted into that 2 points, and let the rest of the EU region know that they have a say at who gets to be on top of the board as well.
Started the game off with 77 total points in 12th place. And as Snagged, he's seen Steelix go down, and they pick up 7 different individuals on the map. They have 14 more elim points to play with, 91 total points in total now.
And this is what I'm talking about. Play well. Crizzy, Vettel, and Sursix picked by Reese to have a great day, I believe, or it could have been Levin, one of those two. But Play Well has not been playing to what we thought. This is where they always coming into the teens, and they're just on the outside. And again, the threshold is 80. But Crizzy now has a jetpack, and maybe Crizzy is trying to do what he can do and get up their leaderboard using Mando's jetpack. That's a story we have to keep an eye on again, as we're seeing ForZR. It's a Grizzy on Grizzy battle, as Bad Sniper gets confirmed by ForZR, and Bad Sniper is another one of those trios alongside with Licensed Tripper, who have to come back again out of the top 10 and done for the day.
We're 16th coming in, 53 total points. They get stopped. Nate, ForZR, and Kha'Zix. I'm gonna dub these guys the Dream Crushers, because that's exactly what they're doing, trio to trio right now in these woods. Somewhat of a nightmare on the map at the moment. You've seen at the backside of this tarp as well will get picked up shortly. Everyone else is way fast rotated in. Snappy, Q-Trick, and Tooser all the way on height once again. So deja vu for at least half the games we've seen today.
And you got to say as well, it's like you're seeing the aggression kind of kick it up now. It's like before we were having storm surges, but no longer. This match is all about the elims, all about trying to push yourself, trying to, as Zeke said, double your output that you've been doing throughout the day and trying to pop off here. And that is why this lobby is thinning out a little bit quicker here than the previous matches. But that doesn't mean the action is kind of like the quality of the action is still high at the moment right now. As you're seeing play well, they have these boys, they have a lot to play for to try to get into. They're still not qual. They not so far about 7 points off Thresh.
And they're looking right at the obstacle in front of them. Slightly far away though, it's Teak, Seti, and Cammy. We're ahead of them on placement at the moment. They'd be at 77. Nate actually goes down. Fully eliminated, stopped at 102 points. That should be a qual for the day though. Kha'Zix and ForZR are there though. They still have a full trio up and alive. We'll be able to keep aggressing and playing on. But we'll be affected in firepower completely because that's one less players for, you know, those crossfires in total. But past that, Stir6 actually going down in the feed to Shakos. So somehow the Selfie Stronghold trio that delayed survived, got to this point, and now is picking up eliminations. The question is it too late for a miracle run? Are 4ZR, Kha'Zix, and Nate the only ones to be able to hit that double-digit threshold of elims and then push forward even more? Hit the qual spot? Have they taken that chance away from Shakos?
And hey, Shio, everyone now has to move. Max pulls happen for everyone on this side, and that sound right there means everybody is taking off, and they're gonna go right into the arms of someone that's sitting at high. But the tree lines are gonna stop from someone getting beam. It's actually a new high person at high. It is Milo and company sitting at high, having a nice look over. But look at this. This is what they're looking at. Just shrubbery, just trees. This forest is just stopping them from capitalizing and getting some valuable beams as they're not getting anything. So that moment is going to give everybody down below, like the 4ZRs, the Kha'Zix, to go ahead and push forward easily and freely without worrying about anybody sitting on beams. But now the chaos is happening as there's so much congestion, and this is where the traffic jam is. You see Cammy, Teak, and Seti trying to work together, looking for the first elim here in match 6. No connections happening. They're at the protective backside here, sending them through as much as possible. All connections are through there. I think they got some harpoon out of that. Yes, one elim happened for Seti, and they were able to get some mats out of that.
Cammy, Teak, and Seti, every single point right now will be huge for them to climb through the rankings and stay inside top 10. It's hyper competitive for every trio that's alive right now in that position. You were talking about Milo, Cisse, and Nebs. Yes, they have high ground right now as well. A high chance to come back with 53 points starting off this game in 15th place. They have to take over Kizzy, Stir6, and Vettel. They have to take over Thomas, Anas, and Flick. Kha'Zix, Nate, and 4ZR, and at the same time, Teak, Cammy, and Seti on screen. It'll be a tall task. Stir6 down in the box now, too. Dragon's Breath shotgun. The fire from it is still rising. Kha'Zix down and low. Seti gets thrown back. Teak at 1 HP. They have to keep their trio structured and alive, and then confirm the elims after. It looks like Vettel will be the last one to keep the Playwell dreams alive as well.
And yeah, and that dream just ended in a blink of an eye. That's how much and how fast it happens here on the mid ground. That's happening, and the zone is pulling up north, and everybody is literally on the same front line. It's who is going to be able to make their really strong weak side, dead side rotation, and Shay and Gray are actually executing that well. You have Bobby as well, the mid layer, executing that well. It is Zappy who's sitting on the mid layer, and Butcher has to be careful here, taking a couple of shots. The question is, who is going to be sitting at height and going further on and on? And now you're seeing that so many of the people are able to get themselves in stronger positions in the top 10, like Zappy, Pushik, and Tush, who are no doubt going to qualify. But looking at the feed, ADN and Astro are still up. They still have an opportunity to go ahead and qualify if they could keep it up, just like Zappy, Tush, and Pushik are sitting in this nice tarp, and they're looking to turn and burn.
Number one thing you have to pay attention to is every single point threshold for teams are going to be snapping to back and forth. Cisse looks like he's still holding on somewhat to height. 108 here for Kha'Zix 4ZR, so they have a chance to still crush dreams. Every single trio they affect might not qualify, and they'll make their place stronger overall for this qualifier round number 2. 109 points, already popping floppers. Nappy dropping down with Puchik and Deuce inside mid-ground tops as well. Floki with some elims. MXR is still active as well, so the miracle run from Stealthy might absolutely be possible so far. Milo's picked up some elims as well. He gets 4ZR down. Stormy Ray taken out by Shakeoffs as well. Where is Milo? They're still on height. This height trio might qualify off of this performance.
This is the play that we need. This is what it takes to get into the top 10. They already stopped a high push from Benji's trio, and now they're holding on as another team is contesting them. Look at the left side. So much is invested. They understand they're holding on for their dear tournament lives here to move on to the next stage. They do not want to go up the gauntlet up again, but Tayson and iDrop and Savage, they may have been able to qualify with that 101-point finish. We'll have to keep a look at the leaderboard as this is the final frame, the final moments here, and Bobby, Helix, and Dex, they actually got Benji's RPG. They're
close to qualifying as well. 81 points. This could be the thing that pulls them through. 6 different trios alive though still. So much placement to go. So many elim points. They have control up on height. The whole trio is alive as well. That's such a rare sight to see and such an advantage this late into the game. Sapphic though is alive mid-ground as well. Rumi or Razumi goes down. Toos picks that up with Putrick. Things slowed down. The server not making much noise. The nerves, the tension high for every trio still alive. ADN as a solo still has to move through. Now those connections start to collide. Helix with some shots forcing things through. Not possible, no connections just yet.
And ADN is literally holding on for his team. Every placement point is mattering for ADN. Can ADN survive the beams that are coming up from height? Because ADN is trying to secure that top 10. He's a new trio as well, just like Benji. It's so important to get that top 10 because consistency points are going to be so difficult for ADN, Hardfind, and Astro as Bobby, Helix, and Dex. They're on the cusp, but they need to get some elims here or that Victory Royale. It's all or nothing for them, Shio.
Absolutely. Right now, 83. They need to pick up some more eliminations. ADN finally going down. Not sure if that performance is enough to stay in the top 10. He'll gain possibility with a med kit with Bobby as well, but he doesn't have the HP himself to use it, so he'll make sure he's up enough and alive for the last portion of this game. It's a top 3. Dexy in the mix with Bobby and Helix up on height. Snappy, Putrick, and Toos all the way down on low with Teak and Cammy in between. They're also battling for that top 10. They might have to push Helix, Bobby, and Dexy out of the way to stay in there. The relationships that all these 3 trios share absolutely connected, and these RPGs are also pushing forward too. Helix now all the way on height. Bobby reloading the RPG. A big clash though down below. Toos goes down. Putrick also removed from the equation. Cammy and Teak down now. They're fully confirmed. It's just Snappy who's alive against Dexy. He gets one. How much further can he go though? Floppers or Cabbages ticking at the same time. There's a medkit play coming from Helix on height. Does Snappy know? He has to fight Bobby first. The medkit pops in. Bouncer up top. Helix there to deny. The HP is not enough, and Helix with those tags and that pressure confirms it, and his qual at 108 points.
Wow, 13 elims and the Victory Royale. They went all for it, they full send, and they got themselves in, no doubt, to that top 10 finish. Another back-to-back week, Shio, where we had endings kind of won the team, kind of punched their way in with the Victory Royale. We saw the Deal and company do it. Now we see a whole new team do it right then and there. And what an unbelievable, resounding finish to the day.
Yeah, 108 possibly also couldn't be enough because we saw a lot of teams in there in the mix.
True, you might be right.
Pretty well with all the points, right? So still, I want to call that a qualifying finish. We'll have to double check it, but still, Sancho, the games today were amazing to cast overall, amazing to watch. They were sick.
They were so great, and congratulations to the winners of Qualifier 2. It is Train H, Skype, Falconry, alongside with Grizzlies, Robaz, 138 points total with the Victory Royale, 27 elims, and an average placements of 7.5. But y'all, the train continues. We still have a lot of actions, and we still have to see who gets in. Shio, any final thoughts to wrap us up here at the caster's desk?
I just want to know what that top 10 looks like because this was the closest we've ever seen just a competition go across any region so far in an FNCS. So that's Sancho, man. I'm giving it over to you. That was just an amazing day to watch.
An amazing day, and what a great finish for Benji, Matzo, and Amplify. That will be my takeaway. So that's going to wrap us up here at the caster's desk for Shio Wager and Sancho West. Thank you so much. Let's kick it over to Zeke.
Thank you guys so much. Fantastic as always. And that is it. Game number 6 here in Qualifier 2 of EU is closed. This means we now will have our top 10 trios. Will be moving on to semifinals 2 weeks from now. Now we'll take a look at that in just a moment. There's a couple things we want to relive, every VR from the day. And of course, we want to get these guys' thoughts. We want to know what they think of that last performance. Gentlemen, a 17th place team, 53 points, comes into game number 6. If that's me, if that's Zeke, I'm thinking, how in the world am I going to pull this off? And for this trio, they had the answer.
They had the answer, and I wanted two of them, Scottish, fellow Scotsmen. So I want to shout them out. Let's go, representing.
Of course, you're trying to take credit for this.
I'm not taking any credit. I'm not taking any credit, but fantastically played by them, 100%. And not only did they pick up a victorial, they completely fragged out as well. So many eliminations over and over and over again. And you know, that height fight with Dexy, really, it was close. It was close contesting it, but once that was won, all three team members went up, and it was a pretty simple win from them because again, they just had that stopping power over and over again.
Yeah, we just saw a remontada from these guys, right? Like the comeback really was on. We've seen this now 2 weeks in a row. You cannot just, you know, give up by any means, because you can qualify in your last game. You could go into your last game somewhat not even really that close to qualifying, or at least in doubt. These guys put on an absolute performance. I'm super impressed. Really impressed by what these guys were able to do. All the victorials from today, though, Reese, we've had a great set of games today, haven't we?
Yeah, we've had some absolutely fantastic games today, actually. And, you know, Robab, Sky, and Falconly obviously took away the entire day, and they took away that kind of the game two as well. And, you know, this is one of the things we'd watched on the stream where we saw Falconly go down, and you can see in the bottom left corner him just kind of going down, overcommitting into that zone a little bit too much, a little bit too early. But because of the fact that there was a tiny hill there, that was 4ZR deep in zone there. And, you know, Robab still has 3 floppers left. We know at this point, because 4ZR was forced into the zone earlier, that he's completely run out. And great little bouncer play just to distance himself from 4ZR, just to ensure that there's no more tags on him at all.
Yeah, I've been talking about it all day, right? It's been a great day for the Frenchies. It's been a great day for CS, but really it's been a great day for Train Hard Esports, because so many of their players putting on a show. We can see here on our screens, Amplify, Matzo, Benji, those guys were amazing. Obviously, we just saw, right, Sky and them were also incredible. So Train H Boys really put on a show, like I said. I think it's been really interesting to see how some of these hype teams are played. Safik, Arizumi, Siberia, these guys were consistently taking hype, right? If you're a team that wants to play high ground, these are definitely going to be the boys to VOD review, because they figured out a formula which has been working for them on a game-to-game basis.
Yeah, it's mainly about the timing, right? They're getting up early into that high ground. There was, out of the 6 games we played, I didn't play them, they played them, but out of those 6 games, 3 of them, they were on height at 50-50. So obviously some of these they did lose at like height kind of earlier on, in particular this last game that we'd watched as well, game 5 that we'd watched. You know, they'd lost the high ground from that position to the RPG from Benji Fishy, because it went up this incredible hill. But in the other 2 games, they managed to just consistently keep that high ground all the way through, pretty much through the moving zones.
I want to make a note on Benji Fishy, right?
Make it.
We've been talking about, you know, Benji Fishy from the beginning of the season, right? I specifically have said that I wanted to see him really in a trio where he could just be, you know, unleashed, right? We've seen that now. Benji's unchained at this point, right? In so many of his previous teams, he's had to worry about having the responsibility of IGLing, right? He's never had that freedom to just be able to, you know, be the great fragger he is. We've seen what he can do with the RPG. The playmaking ability that Benji possesses is, you know, insane. And with having the support system of Amplify and Matzo, let's not discredit these guys. Amplify and Matzo, their game knowledge and understanding is insane. And to finally see them, right? Like, and Fishy, right? And Fishy, Benji's mum, she had said to me, like, Levin, what do you make of this, right? Like, I know you said you wanted to see this. And I said to her, I can promise you, we will see the best Benji we've ever seen, because he just doesn't have to worry about, you know, making calls and whatnot. He has Amplify and Matzo who can carry that responsibility. And I think we've seen that today.
Yeah, and you said, you know, support system. Amplify and Matzo, fantastic players in terms of IGL and obviously the support role there too. But you mentioned a little bit the real support system, and Fishy. Let's be real, MVP of the Fortnite community, my favorite Fishy. Sorry, Benji, you lose out. That's just the way it goes.
It does be like that sometimes, but it's okay. With that being said, let's turn our attention to the top 10 trios that did make it through. Now, we already know who is at the top, but gentlemen, there was a pretty big shift here in this last game.
Yeah, we see again at the top 2 slots, Train H kind of just running a train through the entire lobby. Like, very, very impressive. Both of these teams up at the top, obviously with Robabs and Energy, Benji Fishy as well. You know, these 2 teams that, if we look through the games, were just consistently making plays and just being consistent overall. And we can't forget Safik, Siberia, and Iruzumi as well. You know, these guys played extremely well today. That huge focus on high ground really put them up on top of the leaderboards, as well as on top of that 5th zone.
Yeah, ultimately, right. Super impressive stuff. 2 teams coming out of Misty Meadows, right? This is something that we saw last week, right? We saw 2 teams come out of Weeping and qualify, and 2 teams now coming out of Misty and qualifying. This is great stuff all around. If we take a look over at the next page, though, right? 6 to 10th. Who was able to sneak their way in? You can see they're in 10th place. Helix, Bobby, Dexy, not by any means, you know, the cream of the crop, right? Not necessarily the names you'd expect to see making it to the semis through a top 10 qualification, but putting in the work in that final game to get themselves involved.
Yeah, and the threshold before this game was 82 points. So top 10 was 82 points. And that jumped up by 26 points. That's how aggressive that final game was. All these players just playing out for those huge amount of eliminations. Example, we saw Kezix, Forjar, and Nate, who picked up 14 eliminations in that game again. So really, really large from them. And just placing them up into that 8 slot, ticking that box of we've qualified for the semifinals. But overall, again, GBRJAMIE, Jamside, and Fury. Again, a team that we saw start off pretty poor, right? In Weeping, losing off Spawn in that game 1, but then deciding to change up their drop spot into Lazy Lake and just performing game after game after game.
Yeah, right below them with Link and Stormy, right? You were questioning whether these guys would find success coming out of a contested Steamy. Baffle, Void, and Passive, they've looked amazing in recent times, and you know, those guys, Stormy, right, their team, they made quick work of them at Steamy and qualified through. Great stuff. Looking at this page, so the players who weren't able to make it in, iDrop, Tayson, and Savage just missing out. High Chris, Vortex, and Nightstick, they were super impressive throughout today, but barely missing out.
Yeah, it was kind of a sad story with them in that last game too, being stuck underneath, not being able to get out. And, you know, we saw them go down very, very sadly. It was very unfortunate to see a team that's just on the boundary there and not quite make it in that kind of final game, not have it go their way.
And that's just like a testament to how tough the competition is, right? I mean, this is what we're looking at. There's so many names there that you could just kind of point at any trio and say, how are they not in your top 10? I know them. They're fantastic in the game. But once again, we have one more week of qualifier rounds next week, qualifier 3. We're pretty much done here in Europe. Gentlemen, before we go, any final thoughts from you? Reese, start with you.
Overall, we've seen like a ton of aggression, in particular in that last game. Obviously, players going for elimination points, players just, you know, just making more aggressive plays than they normally would. I'm going to be interested to see next week how that plays out, because what's really going to happen then is they'll have these weeks of playing this super aggressive play style, and then when it comes to the finals and the semifinals, that may not be the play style that's actually going to be incorporated into their own gameplay. So I'm thinking some of these teams that are just being more aggressive may actually end up struggling a little bit more in that semifinal stage. So interested to see kind of how that plays out when we get into week 4.
Next week, we're going to see, you know, a separation of the boys from the men, right? The players who haven't been able to put in enough in the first qualifying weeks will have just one last chance, right? Some of these teams will be fine on series points, others won't. And for those teams who won't, you got to do a job. You got to put in a professional job, put in the work, because everybody wants to make it to that semifinals. Everybody wants a chance to compete for the big prize pool in that finals. And so you just gotta hit some shots. You gotta get some placement points.
Absolutely. Next week is that time. Well, Fortnite fam, thank you guys so much for tuning into Europe. Now, don't forget, we're gonna go to a break, and after that, we're jumping into another 6 games of NAE. So if you want more Fortnite action, stick around. You will not be disappointed. And if not, then we'll see you guys next week. So till then, we'll see you guys on the battle bus.
Beep beep.